Hello all. Hopefully you can hear me all right. I see there's a few people here already. Let's see if we can see who's in the chat. Hey Potts. Hey Zach. So we got the other guys on the stream here, the Yamiks, Down to Earth, Paroxym and Exigeous. And we're all going to be talking about credits, all the issues that come along with it. So they're all chatting in the background at the moment. I don't know if you can actually hear them. I've got them muted, but they're all pretty loud, so you might be able to hear them over my headphones a little bit. But I'm going to bring them in a minute. Right. Oh, sorry, folks. What's the time there? Right, looks like everyone else is ready to come in, so gonna let Yamiks do a little bit of talking for you all, okay?
We're talking, well, money making and related topics about Elite Dangerous and all that stuff. And, well, for whatever reason, I thought that it would be a great idea to gather some other content creators for this particular event. And here with me, starting with the smallest one, we have Paroxym. Say hi to the folks.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, then we have Exigeous, who's rapidly growing, so watch out.
How's it going, everybody?
And Down to Earth Astronomy.
Hello, guys.
Yours truly, the great and powerful one, because of course I must make it like that. And finally, Obsidian, if you're around, do let folks know. And all
Yep,
that stuff.
yeah, hi all.
So, anyways, to kick things off, since we're gonna talk about money making things and so on and so forth, well, let's start with our weekend. So this weekend, developers decided, it's gonna be a great idea, or at least a marketing tactic, strategy, or what else, to bring people back by increasing payouts for commodities and some engineering malarkey. Now, well, if anyone wants to take the floor and at least let people know as to what they think of it in a quick, simple term. Maybe one or two words, or maybe more. Otherwise, I'm just going to be ranting on and on and on.
I don't mind you ranting, Yamiks.
All right. All right, fine. I'll go first then in that case. Okay, so increased payouts for trading, in my opinion, good, or rather positive. I wouldn't really say that's good because as I tested, actually, trading right now will at best give you about 30 million an hour, and while it is okay-ish for trading, as it is still kind of risky, but it doesn't particularly take that much skill. It just takes a bit of time, and of course a ship. So I'd say this should be still increased by about 50% to make it a little bit more interesting, or at least more rewarding feeling. But at least that's just my opinion. Now, as for rest of the things, engineering, well, I might jump into that later. Really, I don't particularly tend to care about these things too much, but well, whatever. Anyways, I don't know, Paroxym, since, well, you talked about this yesterday, quickly summarize your thoughts on this. Bonus week.
The bonus weekend, they didn't really do this quite the way I was expecting and or hoping. And it's because the recipes are all messed up. And instead of, the way they worded it made me think, and a lot of other people, the grade 5 stuff is going to use the grade 4 recipe. And so it's caused a lot of confusion, and it's I think it's overcomplicated things a little bit too much, because now you've got people that are wasting their time trying to convert resources that aren't in the same path, and all kinds of other nonsense. And yeah, it's just, I just don't see it working out very well, at least not right now. Yeah, if they were to change the wording, then that part of it wouldn't be so bad. As far as the trade buff goes, I don't know. I don't think it's enough. I think it needs to be a little bit more, because a lot of people, were making, 10, 15 million an hour via trading normally, and it's gone up to like 20 to 25. But it still isn't enough to really make me want to go and trade or do anything. It's not enough of an incentive. So if you want people to actually be interested in it, you're going to have to at least come fairly close to matching, some of the lower end, quote unquote exploited type stuff that's been done in the past, because that's the stuff that people actually come back to the game for. And yeah, so I was hoping for, 40 mil an hour, which seems like an awful lot, but that would be enough to bring people back in, if even only for a couple of weeks. That's how I look at it. I just don't think that it's quite gone the way it needed to. And since that's kind of my opinion on that. That and their lore justification for this, I think, is a little bit lacking.
Okay. Exigeous, actually, you had plenty of things to say, so go.
Well, yeah, I'll jump in. I think, my guys, and I think most know, I'm not a trader at all, right? Like, I don't find trading interesting in the slightest. Of course, randomly, that's the only topic I'm a lead in, thanks to passenger missions, and mine was way back when we could have slaves get on our ship and get off our ship, right? That was a fun one. But I agree exactly what Paroxym just said, right? I don't think that. I think. Like a lot of times, I think the idea Frontier has here is a good one, right? To do something to incentivize players, to get players back involved, to get players into things they might not otherwise do. So I think that's, a laudable goal. But I think, like most things, their execution is fundamentally flawed, right? I say this a lot. I'm convinced that Frontier stopped playing Elite, like we do a long time ago, right? So because they don't live with the game like we do, when they make these decisions, and we haven't even brought up the engineering buff from this weekend, which is kind of the topic I'm triggered about right now. They don't think about the way that actually impacts us and how we do engineering and how we live with the game. So they have this great idea, and I think buffing trade profits is a great idea. I think buffing anything like that for a short time, I think it was interesting the way they put it in the lore of the game. So I think that's cool, right? But again, it's kind of too little. It's definitely too little too late in a lot of ways. I think Paroxym is absolutely right that it's not enough of a buff, right? I think it does need to be something in the being able to make 30, 40, I'll say even 50 million an hour. I know for me personally, unless I really need credits, I don't go get credits unless I can make over 100 million an hour. Right, because I wait, and sadly, like so many of us, I wait till there's a gold rush. I go make buy, and this last one, I'll admit, I made 2 billion. I'm not going to have to worry about credits for maybe the next year because of that, right? So I've always looked at credits as the work we have to do so we can actually then go play the game. Right. And I don't think this is enough. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, they haven't even specifically said, here's what the buff is, have they? I mean, they've just said trading profits are going to be increased. They haven't said, it's going to be 25% better, or this route is going to be 30 or 40% better, right? And the thing that's always frustrated me about Elite is that they never share any of the information. I mean, the reality is my channel shouldn't even exist. Right. We shouldn't have to provide the documentation for the game that they don't. We shouldn't have to guess at what do we think this buff is, or what do we think this trade route is. Well, just tell us. If you're going to buff trade routes, somebody went and typed in, make this 25% better. Right. Why not tell us that? Right. Why not share any of this information? Right. So, not to ramble on too much, I'll agree exactly with what Paroxym said, that it's just not enough. It's certainly, I would think something like this would need to be to the level that it would encourage me to go trade. Right. Because again, I detest trading. I don't ever do it. There's no chances anywhere close to enough to get me to sit down and actually do trading. Right. So, yeah, so that's pretty much where I am with it, too.
Right, just to make that conversation, I suppose. I Actually, no, you're not. Instead of me just blabbering on and doing that, let's just give everyone, the floor. After all, first of all, let's get everyone's thoughts on the matter. First things first. So I don't know, Down to Earth or Obsidian. Which one of you want to go first?
I can go first.
Yeah,
Okay.
go for it, yeah.
So just to join the choir here, I think the general idea of having a bonus weekend or bonus period like this is very good, and I must have to agree that the execution could have been better. It seems to be a little last minute, something they planned like, hey guys, this could be really fun, should we do this? And then they just decided, hey, sure, let's go with it. And they made something up fairly quick. So I think the first round of it, because I expect there will be more, it could have been planned a little bit better. And yeah, would have been nice if they would have shared a little bit more information about exactly what is this buff that they're going to implement. And then there was the small mishap with the misinformation regarding how the engineering was going to work. And I've already talked to one person who specifically went out and gathered materials because he believed that the blueprints would just be reduced to the blueprint one tier lower. And now it turns out that it was all the materials that was downgraded one grade. So he just collected all the wrong materials, which I could imagine a lot of other people would have done. That being said, I hope at least, that Frontier's going to use this as a test bed, because the whole like mechanic in Elite is a very, very fragile thing. We've seen this several times. Whenever they change just a small thing, something somewhere is going to explode, and that's sometimes something that's just completely unplayable. Sometimes it's a gold rush. Sometimes it's something else. So I hope they're going to use it as a test bed where they say, no, we're going to test for a weekend. What happens if all trade in the game gave twice the profit? And then just see what happens. What kind of changes will that make to the game and the way people play the game? And then give them a chance to go back and evaluate on that later on.
All right, Obsidian, since you're the last one, your thoughts
I don't mind being
on the bonus weekend?
You know what? I've got to agree with what a lot of other people are saying. What really gets to me with Elite time and time again is the time wasting. Yeah, and
but they don't want to waste your time.
well, the time's precious.
When it comes to engineering, of course.
You know,
Care about
time
our
is precious, isn't it? And I spent a lot of time yesterday putting a video together, trying to get the materials for what was going to be the bonus weekend for the engineers, and I went on what Frontier originally said and went and got the wrong materials. Went and got the materials for grade 4 blueprints rather than grade 5 blueprints. Did this by flying around to the various material traders, so I guess it wasn't wasting as much time as it could have been, but I guess, trying to get any time in to do these things can be quite awkward. So to then get to the engineer and find out it was all wrong was just a little frustrating, to say the least.
To say the least.
Yeah, to say the least. But
well, it was basically just miscommunication, and well, then again, when you think about the squadron thing, it's about the same level of communication or detail that we've been given. Oh, at least that's my view.
That's the thing.
Course.
Miscommunication happens, doesn't it? We'll make mistakes like that, but it's just happens quite frequently. Is the only thing, isn't it?
Constantly. I mean, just quickly, I would say,
No,
I can't
could
find
be
with us in a really, really accurate, clear, concise way that the community actually wanted. Right. And I get that they can do their own kind of thing, but it's this constant lack of communication. And when they do communicate, that's so wrong that it's so frustrating to me. And sorry, Obsidian, I didn't mean to step over you there.
No, that's all right. It's just always the time wasting, really, that gets to me. It's the same deal with the trading. After kind of wasting all that time with the material gathering, I didn't have really much time to go and check out the trading. And to be honest, I don't think we should have to go around experimenting just to see what kind of profit bonuses we're getting on the bonus weekend. Yeah,
exactly.
I think it's a good idea overall. I'm all for having a bonus weekend. A lot of other online games do it, and it works well. It saves people time. It gets people playing. But, it's got to be done right. And one of the aims of a bonus weekend is to get things done a little bit quicker, to get people back in to some of the things they might have lost interest in. But if they then got to run around experimenting, they're not really gaining.
That's right.
In terms of time.
Or at best, you've got to go to the forums and dig through page after page of forum posts to try to find a guy that did spend all of that time working it out for you. So regardless, you're the one that has to go do the time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
In some form, yeah.
Yeah. Just time wasting.
I think, I don't know, at least for me, I think that is probably my one biggest gripe, is that some things just take way too much of it.
Well,
Well, that's the argument,
well,
though, isn't it? Some people would say you're asking for easy mode now.
Well, and
Oh, yeah,
it's, not,
we
it's,
need
not,
that.
it's not a matter of
Yeah.
difficulty, is it?
just like easy mode for
No.
Dark Souls, right?
Well,
Exactly.
Would
It's not-
Would
it's
that
not-
really hurt the game? I don't think so.
But
No,
time,
and
time
I
isn't a
think
matter of
about-
difficulty, is it? It's if it takes an hour or if it takes half hour, that's not difficulty. That's just time.
That's right. I
Yeah.
think about the grind to unlock the guardian weapons, right? You know, the first time you do the puzzle,
Oh.
it's kind of cool and fun. The second time, once you really get it down, it's still kind of atmospheric and fun. Well, to do my videos now, because I've unlocked them all, I've done it 56 times, right? Well, it's not fun anymore.
Oh, you mad bastard.
I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And so, again, rather than giving us something hard that takes, let's say, a combined, I'm just going to throw a number here, 4 hours to do all that, instead of giving us a hard 4 hours, they give us an easy 6 minutes that we have to repeat for 4 hours. Right. And that's different than what Obsidian was getting at, wanting easy mode. I don't think any of us here want easy mode by any stretch. I would be happy to have something really hard to do that took 2 or 3 hours and I really had to figure it out and work at it. It took skill, right? That'd be great to get to that same result versus the same boring shit for, you know, over and over and over for 4 or 5 hours.
But it's always a balancing act, right? Because they both need to make the game challenging for the guy who plays 5 or 6 hours a day, and they also need to make sure that the family dad who can maybe play 4 hours a week still feel he's progressing and can actually get somewhere in the game without having to plan 2 years ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'll admit, I actually thought the Guardian, like the power plant and the distributor, in a way are pretty cool modules, because if you are a casual, you go unlock those once, and now you can just buy essentially engineered modules without ever having to do any more work. Well, that's a great idea, but making me, again, do this unbelievably boring game loop, you know, for a few hours to do that, people just aren't going to do it. Right? That's not what I want to do. So I think we all look at those things, and maybe fair enough, we look at those things as the things that we do so that we can then go play the game. And that's unfortunate, I think.
All I can say is that if I'm the one bitching about things taking too much time, there's something wrong. Like you're talking to the guy who purposely broke his canopy in the bubble just so I could fly the ship all the way to Beagle Point nonstop, just to prove a point.
Are you the one that did that? I heard that story.
I'm the one that did that. Yeah, that was me.
Okay. Right.
So, yeah.
Well, there's
And
your
that was just to
sandbox. You
prove a
create
point.
your own challenges, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's
But if I
simulator
am complaining that things take too much time, there's a problem.
Completely agree. Right.
Right. Well, yeah. So let's talk about the game challenge and the whole idea. Oh yes. Well, now, I honestly didn't expect to really talk about this particular topic today, but let's go into the risk and reward, shall we? Oh my yes. So, what is risk and reward? For those that perhaps don't either do economy or didn't listen to economy in school, or don't get the whole idea in game development that is in the topics of risk and reward. Now, basically, risk and reward is the basic notion is as follows. You do the more risky job, well, either be that killing someone or whatnot else in a more difficult way, you get either bigger reward or you spend less time to accomplish a certain thing. A good example would be to bring a dirty diaper to your town or something like that was a quest in an MMORPG. Now, you have 2 paths. One leads through the normal hilly side around the mountain and whatnot else, which is safe and can be done in a fair bit amount of time, but you can do it without too much of a hassle. Now, the other one leads you through the mountain, and just like in the, what was it, the fucking Lord of the Rings, fucking hell, what's wrong with me? Anyways, Lord of the Rings, if you go into the mountain valley, you might find some threats and other things. Now that is the risk you take. If you're skilled enough and you are able to, go around these things or defeat those things and what else, you get, well, that reward or ability to quickly finish the task. And that essentially is what risk and reward is. In this game, now, it's interesting that when it comes down to money making, I've talked about this in previous videos, streams, videos, and all the other things, because, you know, who would I be without horse beating? Now, when you think about it, okay, when you go out there, test things, try things in the lead game, and all the things that you can do in this massive, amazing simulator. When it comes down to combat, let's say simple bounty hunting and hazardous res sight. Well, how much do you expect to make? Anyone? Anyone's got a number here?
7 to 10 billion an hour, something like that.
In an hour,
Maybe in an hour, yeah.
Yeah, anywhere
much do you
between
think you can make?
7 to maybe 11 million.
On the high side, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, I tested
I
it
think your
with
average
multiple big ships, and results it was about 5 to 6 million.
Yeah, okay. I think that's about accurate.
So get fucked.
Yeah, that's
Now, the funny thing is, I also tested Road to Riches, the easiest type of a gameplay in the game, or rather the least skill, knowledge, or... Well, okay, knowledge is, I suppose...
no, it's skill, absolutely.
Okay, there is a little bit need of knowledge in exploration to make money with it, but regardless, there's no risk involved in exploration. If you think there is, I'm sorry, no, just no. Just no. And so, yeah, there's no risk. There's only time and a little bit of knowledge. Not even a lot of requirements for your ship. So,
Yeah,
how much
you could
do you
do
think you
5
make
hours.
with Road to Riches?
All right, 15.
15, yeah.
In my testing, it ended up about 13 million an hour.
Yeah,
I tried it for an hour and 2 hours, and of course mix of those two afterwards. But it was 13 million an hour, oddly, specifically, always. It was always the same result, give or take, you know, thousands of credits. But
Yeah, of course,
get
of course.
that. So there you go.
Yeah, consistency
Really
is good
easy
though.
gameplay that can double your income or reward in this case, then well, realistically speaking, the hardest gameplay and most demanding gameplay in this game. And basically, the point of what I'm trying to raise here is this game, risk and reward, balance. There's no intersection in that Venn diagram. There you go. Thoughts? Anyone?
Man,
Nope.
give me a second
Okay.
to sort
Yeah,
my
yeah, so
I'm gonna say, give me a second to sort my thoughts out here.
there's the idea perhaps that all aspects of the game should make equal money, which I don't really agree with that idea.
I don't either, right? I mean, yeah, I think that different roles should earn different rates, and I don't have a problem with that. But I think exactly what Yamiks is getting at, especially if you're a new commander and you're looking at it, as we all know, one of the main issues in the game is rebuy, right? That I'm going to go do combat, where as a new commander, especially starting out, the risks are, you know, I might lose I spend 2 hours bounty hunting, I pick up all these bounties, I then get killed. I not only lose my rebuy and have to pay that, but I just wasted in terms of credits the last 2 hours of play that I now have gotten nothing for that time. And also, to be clear, I don't think that the game should be played just to earn credits, right? There is
Of course not.
Yeah, right. I mean, you know, doing that for me is a reward in and of itself, but there is, as we're discussing, the reason we're here today, there is a financial aspect to it that is important, right? And does affect the game. And the fact that, as you just described it, the absolute easiest, I have a 5-minute video, which you should go to my channel and watch, on Road to Riches. Sorry.
You piece of shit. All right, carry on.
Wow.
Okay.
In a 5-minute video, you can learn how to make, in a Sidewinder with maybe 3 or 4 hours of gameplay, you can make double, like you said, that I can make in a fully outfit Corvette, right? And a fully engineered Corvette with 4 buddies in Corvettes. That's kind of absurd.
There's that.
It's more
The point, more or less, I'm looking, or at least the point from which I'm looking at the game, of course, is from the entertainment purpose, or rather, sort of a side, and of course, the designer of a game, essentially. And that's essentially, when you're making a game, you have to make sure that a player has a good time. And of course, you pose challenges and interesting things to do in the game, and so on and so forth. Doesn't matter what it is, it's a simulator or not. You have to make a piece of entertainment entertaining. And now when it comes down to the fact that when you realize somebody farting about there in the black, just touching stars inappropriately and other things, can make a lot more things, rewards, essentially, than you hard sweating and doing the best you can. Well then, where's the joy at doing the thing that you do is anymore, really? Obsidian?
I kind of wonder how we should be looking at balancing money, though. What's a good amount to earn? And I tend to think that a good way of looking at that is balanced against ship rebuy. Yeah, how long should it take you to replace the cost of rebuying a ship? An hour? A day?
I've wondered that myself, and I honestly think the rebuy solution might actually be the best. It shouldn't be, at least in theory, that difficult to scale, like, say, mission payouts based on, the rebuy value of your ship. Is that way, you can get involved with whatever you want to. Like, you can go out and bounty hunt if you want, you can trade if you want to. And if you're running missions, the payouts will go up and down depending on, how much it's costing you to operate.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that would at least make it so, like if you're in a, you're in a vet, you're not out there, making, the same money as someone who's in something half the size and with less than half the rebuy cost of whatever it is you're running. Because there are people out there that have rebuy costs of more than 50 million credits, easily.
Yeah.
And in current, in the current setup, it takes some people, 5-10 hours just to get up that amount for a single rebuy. I mean, that seems like an awful long time, versus someone that's making the same amount, is rebuying their ship, say, for comparison's sake, once every hour.
Yeah.
That seems a little off balance to me.
Yeah, Noah in my chat just brought up the subject of Thargoids and should they be profitable to take down.
Oh,
And they're pretty risky in a
that's
lot
a
of
good
ways,
one.
especially if you're not
Very
exceptionally good in
Yes.
combat. So you're going out
That's right.
there with this ship that's potentially got a 40 million rebuy, and what, you're making 2 million off a Cyclops?
2 million of Cyclops, 6 million of Basilisk, and 10 million of Medusa.
Yeah, so you lose that 40 million rebuy ship. How many Cyclops have you got to kill to replace that
That's right.
cost again?
That would be 20.
Or would the idea be you're meant to go off and do something else to pay for the rebuy, which means you're not doing the activity you actually want to do, which in that case would be fighting the Thargoids?
well, and then I think the sad thing is that's what then obviously makes these gold rushes so important and so divisive, in that, I get so sick of hearing people scream, exploit when there's not gold. It's not, right? Let's be clear. The only person that can define something as an exploit is Frontier. If they call something an exploit, absolutely none of us should be doing it. They don't. They fix the thing, so obviously they weren't as intended. And clearly the passenger redirect mission that we did a couple of weeks ago, clearly that wasn't as intended, right? But we all have to scramble to do that to get exactly what Obsidian is saying, which is you have to get to a point where your rebuy doesn't matter. I mean, I think I probably do more combat maybe than everybody here, other than maybe Down to Earth, right? And the first day the Thargoids came out, I got killed 3 or 4 times in my Anaconda and lost like 120 million. Now, I didn't care because I had the balance for it, but your average player, or the way you really should play the game properly, I would have died once to it and I would have had to stop. right? Because as we're saying, it's absurd.
Unless you want to just self-destruct constantly, and there you
Well,
go.
I mean, right? If I'm going to lose 40 million in 5 minutes, but it's going to take me, as Paroxym said, maybe 4 or 5 hours to earn that same back. That's absurd.
Down to earth, you had something?
But
it was just a comment on the fact if all activities should be equal in the game, and no, I don't think they should, but they should definitely be more balanced than they are right now. Because, I mean, again, Road to Riches as an example, I could take a Cobra and I could get that within the first hour or two in the game, and I could get myself a decent exploration Cobra, go out and make those 13, 15 million per hour. Whereas I could take out my fully pinned cutter that's cost I don't know how much, and take it out in the asteroid field and begin mining. And if I'm lucky, I will break maybe 4 or 5 million per hour if I'm really, really lucky.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some balancing issues, and on the topic of balancing, that's a comment to the fact that people are shouting exploits every time there's a gold rush. I think it's because people don't understand the difference between an unbalanced game mechanic and an exploit, because a lot of this, an exploit is when something in this game is not doing what it was supposed to do. The skimmer missions or the redirect or alternate destination mission, they were doing exactly what they were supposed to do. The mechanic wasn't balanced. So that's the difference. And I think there's a lot of people who fail to see that distinction.
Well, then again, it's hard to generalize all the folks around, but the lack of perhaps clairvoyancy or just simple common knowledge about what is a game, how things are made, or just even stopping and thinking for a second as to what things are in a more grander scheme than just your little common buddy, the circle of friends. Just stop and think a little. That's all we're asking, or at least I am asking. Just before you start shouting about stuff, First of all, of course, none of the things when it comes to money making are exploits unless
Frontier sells.
Unless Frontier decides that whatever you're doing or the aspect of in which you're doing the thing, are really considered as an exploit.
When wing missions first came out with 3.0, there was some bug, and they even said if you take a mission that pays over, I want to say it was 40 million for a single mission, maybe
it was billions or something.
Okay, whatever it was. If you do this, we'll take it out of your account because this is wrong. Bingo, exploit, right? Shouldn't be done, right? But when the mission board, when I'm flying along and my passenger says, "Hey, take me over there instead, and I'll give you 70 million for it," how did I exploit that? Right? The game told me, the game offered it to me. And the other thing that I find interesting, I'm curious what everybody here thinks is, do any of you guys, does anybody here listening use the mission board for anything other than times when there is a gold rush, right? Does anybody actually just go to the mission board to use it and do things? You do. Because
I'd say, me too.
But that's
just to see and try perhaps a couple of things.
But the only
at least on my end, I for a video or just when I'm bored for a stream or something, just to showcase things. But if I was a normal player, I would go for just bored. Again, just because missions right now, unlike normal outside of a mission quest sort of a gameplay, that gameplay is really shit. As I said, bounty hunting is under rewarding. The same thing with I don't know. Is exploring really under rewarding?
No,
I'd say kinda. It is kinda. But again, when you can make, as I said, that 13 million an hour road to riches, it doesn't matter what ship you take. You can do that in a fucking hauler. Remember?
He's absolutely.
You do in a Sidewinder.
The Sidewinder needs a little bit more jump range, but hauler has the 4th longest jump range in the game. In any case, you can do that with fucking hauler. There you go. So exploring, well, it's not dependent on your ship or your current income, so it is static. By which, in a way, you should actually judge every other gameplay in a way, since it is the only grounded point. At least how I would perceive it. Of course, my ideas of game design are, so fucking flawed that I don't know. I'm just a failure as a potential person talking about these things, so I shouldn't be even saying things because apparently, whatever. But in any case, it just baffles me to see that even with a super souped up ship with a ton of shit of skill, you can't make more than that. Not even half of that doing combat or target hunting properly, at least. Okay, with the new Guardian weapons, you can take down the fucking Medusa too, but whatever. Obsidian?
I just wonder what you guys think of the argument that we should just be doing these activities not for the credits, but because they're enjoyable. It's a comment I
I'd love
say.
to.
I think that's
I'd
very
love to.
right. I think the problem, in fact, my take is I think a lot of players will get burned out on the game because they just do things to earn credits, right? Because sadly, as we know, everything is based around credits and they don't actually play the game, right? They don't figure out who they are, what is their character. I mean, well, we all know Elite's not going to hold your hand through this. So I think it's important to decide, are you an explorer? Are you a trader? Are you a pirate, a bounty hunter? What are you? And then play to that, right? So I think it's very important to not play for credits. I think it's just a shame that, as we're getting at, specifically with balance and combat, that some of those things, because everything we do basically, for the most part, PvP excluded, does pay, and that those payouts are so completely skewed, right, that you wind up doing these boring repetitive game loops just to make money so that you can then go do what you want to do. And as we got at the beginning, when we're talking about people with limited time, the problem is you have to spend so much time grinding out your credits so you can go do what you want to do. By the time you get to do what you want to do, you're either out of time, you're so burned out from, doing passenger missions back and forth from Perutus and Mev that you just want to shoot yourself. Right? I mean, like, what video game I've never played a video game where I had to entertain myself while I played it. Right? And, I get that long haul passenger missions have that inherent problem kind of thing. Right? But we've all at some point sat there and put on Netflix and done exploration or done, long haul passenger or something like that. Right? That's kind of crazy to me. Right.
I think my best example of that one is putting on movies while I was farming meta alloys to repair a station.
Yep. And we've all done that. Everybody listening to me, if you've got more than 100 hours in the game, I guarantee you've done that at some point.
Well, 100 hours actually is not that bad, but it starts to border on it. It starts to border on it because 100 hours, well, you can play the game quite a bit. There's the ocean is vast, as they say.
Well, my point is, if you've gotten to that level of gameplay, by then you've certainly done some boring ass grind where you've had to entertain yourself in some other way during it, right? Maybe in your first 20 hours, you're still engaged in doing stuff the whole time because you're probably not
trying to learn not to crash. Like that's what I did.
Right. But I think Obsidian makes a very, very important point that you need to play the game not just around credits. In my opinion, if you're playing just around credits, I mean, you can't play it wrong, but I certainly don't think you're getting out of it what the game has to offer, right? Because I think none of us would be here discussing this if the game wasn't, in a lot of ways, amazing, right? I heard it summed up best that I think the best way to sum it up is Elite is a phenomenal technical simulation, and it's a horrible game.
Correct.
Right? I mean, that's the best.
That's an interesting take. Indeed.
Well, a bad game, but I mean, the game design of it is the problem, right? The technical aspects of it, the simulation aspects of it. I mean, the fact that I'm sitting in a chair with HOTAS controls, not right now, but normally in VR, feeling like I'm flying a fucking spaceship. There's nothing else that replicates that, right? But then the flip side of it is that I have to spend hours and hours doing a bullshit grind 56 times to unlock some Guardian weapons. Oh my God, it crushes your soul, right? I think that's where the game breaks down.
But Exigeous, it's not a grind if you don't make it, or what? However that went. It's not a grind if you make it.
I subscribe to that a little bit, right? I do think, and I think Obsidian, correct me if I'm wrong. I think you agree that too. That you certainly can lessen the grind, right? Like I think you can make it. You certainly can make it worse of a grind if you just go and just grind your ass off. But if you mix stuff in, I think you can mitigate it to a degree.
To an extent, but personally, I avoid a lot of the things that I think is a grind. I didn't touch the engineers for 6 months to a year for that precise reason.
I didn't either, to be honest, right?
Yeah, now that I think about the whole point Obsidian raised, would you actually play the missions if, they really offered you no credit reward? Of course, maybe some of you people would do for BGS, and obviously there are people that play fucking power play for crying out loud, just because apparently they are so fucking misguided. Well, again, you play the game as you want, but it doesn't, exempt you from critique on your choice on it.
Well,
I find it extremely, but whatever. That's a different topic for a different time. Now, would I? Again, would I actually play missions?
What Down to Earth thinks about it?
Go. Fine. Fuck it. Yeah, let's go.
I didn't mean to cut you off, right? Just.
It's a difficult one, right? Because I don't know. Give me a second. I need to make up my mind here because on one hand, it's I don't know how to. Give me a second.
Yeah.
Okay. If you want, I can rant in the middle.
Can I jump in there while you're thinking?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
To me, I think it really comes down to balance, and for me, balance is between balancing the activities you're doing because you enjoy doing them, but you've still got to get money in order to do them. Yeah, so like with the example with the Thargoids, I'm quite happy to go out there and fight the Cyclops. I think it's quite enjoyable to do that. They've been really well designed, and that particular part of the combat is is great. But if you're not getting enough money to cover that particular activity, then it makes it difficult. And there's some activities, obviously, like Road to Riches that Yamiks mentioned, where you can go out there and you're doing, you might be doing the activity because you enjoy it, and at the same time you're getting money. And to me, that's really what all the activities should be. It shouldn't be a credit grind for the sake of getting the credits.
Yeah.
But they should go both hand in hand.
My personal favorite gameplay, the dirty word of PvP, right? That obviously doesn't pay shit and winds up, costing you, can cost you a fortune depending on what you're fighting in, right? And I know PvP is a whole other topic, but it goes down to, there are different things that you'll want to do. And I think the sad thing, again, not to go on a tangent there, is so many players that might be interested in PvP. It's such a huge barrier in engineering and credits to it that I think it puts off so many that otherwise, would be able to get into that aspect of the game. Right. And I don't mean to get into specifics with PvP. I think it does, although, come into exactly what Obsidian was saying in terms of, you do have to earn credits, right? You do have to be able to finance what it is you want to do. And when that financing is so boring and, and so misbalanced, it's as we all have been saying, it's frustrating, right? And a couple are saying in my chat, and I agree completely, I wish CQC was more factored in and that you could make money playing CQC. I think that's why CQC doesn't get played any more than it does, right? Because there's no real incentive. Nobody goes in to do it. And then when you do try to do it, you sit there for 30 minutes trying to find a match because nobody's doing it, right?
CQC is an interesting exercise, I'd say. Again, for me, I don't know. Maybe I just look as a potential game designer or whatnot else. It all comes down to the engaging gameplay. Ever since I put my hands. I'll be quick. Right. Ever since I put my hands on Dark Souls, it showed me what an actual fucking proper gameplay could be. A really, really engaging one at that. Anyways, Down to Earth, go.
Yes, the whole aspect of the slightly grindy nature of the game. I'm afraid to use the word end game because how do you define the end game in a game like it?
Every game has it, and it's fair to use it. If you think it's not, well, sorry, that's not true. Go.
Yeah. So my point is, I see credit in Elite as it's just enables you to do what you really want. I think it's a very small amount of players who collect credits because they want to collect credits, just because they want to see that number grow.
Yeah.
I think most people, they collect the credits because they want to. It enables them to go and do something else. So
Yes.
People might do something that they don't enjoy as much, which allows them to spend more time doing what they do like. Which is, of course, why all these money rushes is so popular, because it suddenly enables people to say, "Oh, if I just do this repetitive task a weekend. Next week I can go and do what I really want. And again, that all boils down to what we talked about earlier with the balancing in the game. That that if the task that they wanted to do was a little bit more balanced. I mean, when I started out in the game, I came from EVE Online, and EVE Online I enjoyed mining. It was peaceful, just sitting in a belt, collecting roids for hours and bringing it back, and then I enjoyed seeing or spending that material building something, whatever. And I thought that's gonna be fun in Elite, and I enjoy mining in Elite. But problem is, if you start out as a new character and you decide, or new commander, and you decide I want to go out, I want to be a miner. Well, tough luck. You're not gonna get very far.
Yeah, not at all.
Because
mining in this game. Fuck me. I need to do a 24-hour thing. Don't remind me.
I need to get 24-hour mining stream.
Are you doing a 24-hour mining stream? Good lord, no.
Yeah.
I'd shoot
Long
myself.
story. Moving on.
I want to hear that one later, though.
Yeah.
The worst I've done was 5 hours, and then I crashed my ship.
My stream is a just bag of dicks sometimes. Sometimes they're amazing folks, but god damn it, this is one of them.
I did a 6-hour one, but you know the stipulation was there was vodka involved in that one. So that's the only reason I got
I'm
through
always
it.
sober, mate. I'm always sober. Fuck me.
I did a couple
No,
sevens,
Nuke,
and
I am not joining in on that. Absolutely not.
So yeah.
I'm a glutton
Anyways,
for punishment. but
was
not
that it? Down?
Yeah, for now.
Okay. Well, in that case, right. So now, okay. Someone, let's say, a developer from the team, one of these days might come along and say, but you know, your perception of what this game is supposed to be is wrong. We intended it to be different. This is a simulation, really, more than a game. We didn't design it to be, you know, a typical thing where you go and do things, right? It's just supposed to be a technical marvel and with some interactive parts of it. It technically qualifies as a game, but it's not supposed to be like that. What would you say to such an argument?
So I've been talking about this before, and I think that, and some of you guys might correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the original idea with Elite was it was supposed to be a sim game, like a space simulator, which it does fairly well as a space simulator. And that means it's now dragging in, I see two. You can, if you want to really put it into boxes, you could divide the Elite players into 2 boxes. You have the sim players who plays the game because they like to play sim. Those are the same type of guys who enjoy flight sims, like flying around in planes. And those are often the guys who would be shouting immersion, immersion, immersion whenever something. There you go. That one, exactly. And it was the same thing when Frontier announced the bonus weekend, which we currently have. Instantly on the forums, you had people saying, "Oh, but why? How does this make sense in the lore in the game?" And that's one group of players. And then I see another group of players who are the more casual player who plays Elite Dangerous not as a simulator but as a game, like the progressive players, where they have a goal, they want to achieve something, whether that is getting whatever ship engineered or something. And those type of players will, of course, always seek the path of least resistance. And that's when you get some of these heated arguments, when you get those two types of players in the same conversation, because they have a very different point of view of what the game should be and what they want the game to be.
Anyone else's thoughts on the whole thing that we perceive this game wrong?
You know, I kind of wonder, from Frontier's point of view, it's very difficult to balance. How do you balance for your player base when it's clearly divided between people who enjoy the simulation aspect of it, or the immersion, yeah, and the part who just want the pure gameplay? In many ways, those two aspects are at odds with each other. Or is that just me?
No, I mean, I think you're exactly right, City, and that's what I was just going to chime in with and say. I think one of the great things about Elite, and it's also what we're getting at. One of its biggest problems is it's 4 different games to 6 different types of player all at the same time. And for games that I've played, I think it does do a pretty decent job balancing that. At least it's somewhat successful in it, right? In that you are trying to play to both sides. Personally, I'm definitely an immersion sim guy, but at the same time, like a bonus weekend like this is very easy for me from a lore perspective of, the little announcement of, because of this, traders in the galaxy got together and decided there'd be, well, okay, I'm fine with that, right? I've never had a problem for the most part with anything they've explained. They've done some dumb stuff. The thing that pops to mind is the fact that material traders don't show on your galaxy map unless you've been there. Well, that's like saying that your phone book doesn't have an auto dealer in it unless you've been there before. Well, that's absurd. Would you buy a phone book that didn't have everything listed in it? Of course not, right? So, that's a very kind of specific thing, but, I personally...
It's immersion.
Well, I'm definitely a sim immersion guy, right? But I don't think the two have to be mutually exclusive. And I think the guys the extremists on both sides, I do think miss the point, right? I think if I'm right to what Down to Earth said, my understanding is that it is intended to be a sim, right? And of course, there's going to be game elements you have to put in it, because at the end of the day, it is a game. Right? We're not actually accomplishing anything, right? We're playing a video game. What we're accomplishing is having fun, right? I tell you, if I see look at my X ship that I bought by doing some grind for the next last 2 hours, aren't I? Special posts on Reddit, I'm going to shoot myself, right? It's like, guys, it's a video game. You got to a ship that everybody else got to, okay? At least give us a pretty screenshot, right? It's because I think the only thing personally for me that I accomplish, is fun, and for me, the social aspect, right? If it weren't for conversations like we're having now, the community around it, that while it can be very toxic, at the same time, fantastic. I'm sure we all can think of some story, either personally or very connected to us, where somebody did something ridiculous to help another player, right? And I've never seen that in other game community I've been in, right? And I come from this is the first real space. And if you want to call Elite MMO or not, that's maybe another topic to discuss. It's the first type of...
MMO is massively multiplayer online, so technically it is. If you're talking about the RPG part, well, the RPG is a different thing. So if we are being anally proper here, then there's no real discussion. Sorry.
Yeah,
Anyways, carry on.
From the sim racing world, and originally built my setup and everything for sim racing. I got the Oculus Rift. Honestly, I really hated it at first. I was really disappointed with the quality of it. I thought, I should get that dangerous game. What was that Elite game, and give that a try. 5 minutes after it in VR, it was like, you couldn't pry this from my fucking dead hands, right? And I've been addicted ever since, right? So I come at it.
Privilege goggles. I don't know. I don't get the point. People keep poking me about that, but whatever. That's just me.
That's right.
I have a set of those around somewhere. I just don't ever use them.
Oh, I'm addicted. The only time I don't do it is when I'm jumping, like right now where we're talking, I'm just jumping, or if I'm doing something for a video, right? Otherwise, I'm generally in VR, right? Because of how much I enjoy it. But again, another topic. Sorry.
Well, I don't know. Let's see. What else could we kind of poke today? Now, let's see. Anyone's got any particular burning question? Because I certainly have something just in case. But after all, you're here. Anyone?
Actually, one of my guys just asked a very a question. He says, did you guys get a sense of achievement out of finding the ships, modules, and everything to outfit your ships? He's talking about like phone books directories, like having to search for things instead of just being able to, open a catalog and look for, and just see, this is there and this is there.
No, not for me.
Nope.
I mean, I want to just.
I don't like accounting, so no. Just saying.
Well, what's back when 3.0 launched on one of the live streams, they said something about they don't intend us to just buy a ship and then immediately go around and engineer everything on it. It should be, a gradual thing you do over months or whatever. To me, I call bullshit.
Personal narrative.
Exactly, that's what it was, right? You know, for me, I want my ship done, right, so that I can then go enjoy flying it, right? I don't enjoy going around and grinding for materials and going around and rolling blueprints and going around and trying to track everything. And if it wasn't, we haven't even talked about it all, like the third-party tools and such, you know, EDDB and NARA, stuff like that, ED Engineer. If those tools didn't exist, we all know the game wouldn't exist. I mean, what was it, a year ago when they went on strike and Frontier freaked the fuck out because, you know, you couldn't play the game without it.
Actually, I can talk about that a little bit.
Please.
Go.
Because what they did is they timed it right before the whole salami event, and
Oh snap!
yeah, Yamiks, you know.
I know, I remember it. Oh
yeah.
man, that was a shit show.
Yeah, it was.
The forums was in flames. I loved it.
Yeah, and it was amazing how many people in the pack Discord could not function without the third-party tools. For me personally, it wasn't that big of a deal because I don't use them that often. But there are a lot of people out there that rely on those things. And I can understand why. And it's because a lot of the stuff that they provide is simply just not available in game.
I mean, let's put it this way. If you were tasked with taking, let's say, a simple ship, Sidewinder, and fully engineering it, and you only had the in-game tools to learn where to get the modules, who the engineers were, what blueprints you needed, where to get everything, I don't think you could do it.
No, that can't be done. Can't be done.
That gameplay would be just get fucked gameplay, essentially.
Exactly. Right?
But would that gameplay be fun if the tools were in the game to enable us to find those sort of things?
Yes.
I think so. I mean,
that would create more immersion.
Right?
I don't know how many of you remember the original. Am I over talking someone? Am I?
No, please. It was me.
No, go ahead.
Go.
Don't know how many of you remember the original proposals for the galaxy, where all the stars in the galaxy map were originally going to be undiscovered. You wouldn't be able to see them. You'd basically start with an empty galaxy map, aside from the stars around the civilized bubble. So
I get what you're saying.
you literally weren't originally going to be able to. It wasn't going to be possible to be able to hyper jump outside of that, and there was going to be tools where you'd have to actually use them to discover those hyperspace routes, and slowly over time the galaxy would have then got populated with stars.
I would love that.
Obviously they kind of moved away from that.
Very hard to
interesting.
make, so obviously devs didn't make it because it was.
Yeah, but the point I'm kind of getting at there really goes back to what you're saying about the engineers, that information is not available in the game. It's something that's just not there. But it don't necessarily have to just be put in there saying, "I'll go to A to get B." We could perhaps have tools instead.
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not saying that the information should just be, you know, a table there per se, but there should be. Right now, if I look at a blueprint and let's just say for dirty drives, I need pharmaceutical isolators, right? There is nothing in the game that tells me, there's no resource I can use in the game as to where do I get that. Right? There's little things they're found in, I can't remember what it does say, right? But there's nothing that tells me I need to go to an outbreak system, right? And find high-grade USSs, right? I know that because I can go to Inara or the web and other people have shared where they found them. But again, there's nothing that tells me this is where that information is in game, right? And I get, you know, like in the past, I've heard a lot of people that, oh, you know, Frontier's, you know, a little company or it was kickstarted. And to me, look, I try to go back to there's supposedly 100 people working on Elite, and this is a $500 million company we're talking about. I think that lack of that sort of, I would call documentation, I think is somewhat absurd, right? And it is great that the community can jump in and provide those things. And I think that's cool and all, but how little Frontier supports those efforts, I think is my main issue, I would say, with that kind of stuff, right?
So now I think it's a really good time to try and I don't know how much you guys have been reading up on it. I think they're calling it the Cryptex or something similar. It's supposed to be a
Codex. It was Codex, I think.
Thank you, Codex.
Codex, okay.
Yeah, something there. I don't know if you've been reading up on it, but it's supposedly something they're going to implement in the Q4.
Yeah, it's basically something that who the fuck knows what it will be, just like the fucking squadrons, at least to me. But anyways, carry on.
No, but it seems like the Codex is what at least the small amount of description I've seen of it, that it's going to be some kind of a personal log over stuff you've discovered. Now,
Okay.
I hope it's not just going to be like a you were the first to discover these systems, or you visit all these systems. They said that it's going to give you hints. So if you found something, it's going to give you hints towards discovering new things that's related. Now, what I hope that is maybe they're going to be, let's say you go out and you scan a ship and you get some of the shield data, and you get some of the lower tier shield data. Then maybe that codex will then hold some information about, oh, well, there are higher tier versions of this data. Maybe you could go in and look for this and this and this type of ship, and maybe nudge people in that direction. And maybe the same thing could happen with engineers. I mean, yeah, the information about where the engineers are is technically, I mean, actually locating engineers is technically a game if you unlock them one at a time. But I think it could be very, very difficult. For instance, unlocking Palin. Now you have to go out and find a Thargoid sensor and shoot it up and get the fragments for Palin. Now, how are you ever going to find those if you have no idea what a Thargoid is, because you're not using third-party tools, if you're just playing this in your own cave offline?
Or you didn't read any of the X amounts of fucking books or some random online tools or things that devs posted. Who the fuck knows how long ago? Yay! Just throwing it out there. Anyways,
the only thing you could do if you really wanted to, let's say you have no knowledge of third-party tools, and you suddenly say, oh, I need to go find Thargoid sensors. The only place I can see in the game where you'd be able to find this was to go to Galnet and then see, oh, there are articles about ships calling, or an alien race calling Thargoids. Maybe I should go and look at those. And that would kind of give you a hint in which direction to move. But even if you hunt down the Thargoid ships, they're not going to give you, I don't believe they drop sensors, even if you kill them.
They make a big gas cloud. Presumably,
Yes.
They just farted themselves to death. So there you go. Just saying, that's just my perception. Anyways, Exigeous.
Yeah, so a comment that somebody made on my stream that I typed back to him, but I kind of wanted to address was, he said something to the effect of, so Frontier should just give you everything, right? They should just tell you everything.
Oh,
Now,
I
don't
have
think
answer
that-
to that, but
Yeah, right. And I'll let you jump in. I won't be long here, but I think back to what Down to Earth said. If there were some sort of, I love the idea, and I had not seen that, of a codex or something that keeps track of things, again, in game. And I think it's great that the community puts these tools together and posts things to help each other. And as somebody said in chat, post spoilers about getting stuff. I think that's all great, right? But it shouldn't take a community to play a video game. Right? As we said before, you cannot engineer a Sidewinder fully just using the game itself. There's no, I don't believe for a second you could do it in under 100 hours of stumbling around, right? And that's the problem, right? There should be some game loop that lets me earn the knowledge. Like when you unlock Palin should say, hey, here's the things I need. And at least here's some hints on maybe how to go get them, right? And with that, Yamiks, I'll let you take it from there.
Right, so your original question was, should the game give us, or should we have to find it in game? Or essentially, I look at the game, well, since this is a game, technically, right? So a piece of entertainment. Now, what does a piece of entertainment should do? Entertain, right? Now, that means that it has to do something for you, since after all, you also paid money for it. Just being allowed access to a sandbox, watching paint dry is also a thing that I can do with friends, so you have to give something better. So that's my perception as to whether or not game should give you or not. So yeah, game should be, or should give you at least some pointers, and things to do. Well, of course, not leading you too much, since this is Elite we're talking about, but still, you get the point. It shouldn't be the part of the process of making the fun.
Well, I think
They should give us the things, at least to some degree, more than right now. That's for sure. Obsidian, since you got something on the topic, you go, then Down to Earth.
It's just kind of wonder. It always makes me wonder when that point is raised. Why is it a question of either or? Why does it have to be the game either gives you everything or the game gives you nothing? Surely there's some middle ground there. Yeah, if the game gives you the tools to find the
opposites
information,
of the spectrum.
yeah.
Because again, it's basically opposites of the spectrum. That's why it's either or, not. Again, if how
Yeah,
could
but
you
who
have
really wants a game like that?
where you basically have to find entertainment for yourself while it also offers you entertainment?
Well,
This is
the
either or case.
the
Really.
answer to me
Not-
is just to have more tools in the game. Yeah, I mean, you look how
sure, I suppose.
you look how you're finding. I'm doing it on my stream at the moment. I just flying by a planet and found some brain trees down the planet, and knew roughly where they were because I got the coordinates off of the Canon website.
Oh yeah.
But you know, it's a nightmare. Why is there not some tools to discover that?
Amen.
And now I
Amen.
do.
That
I do,
would be nice.
I do
It's hidden
think,
by
um,
Indra.
I do think that's probably what we're going to get in Chapter 4. I suspect we'll get tools like that to help us find these sort of things, at least going on what they said at FX.
It's gonna be there once the space legs come out, aka probably never.
But to me, that's the middle ground, yeah? That gives us, that gives you what, that gives the people who don't want to be given stuff, and it also
Exactly.
gives the people
Yes.
who want to be able to find the information out inside the game.
Yes. Excellent.
Yeah.
I would love it if there were tools like that in game. You'd find me out doing things a lot more often.
Right. As I understand it, the way that explorers really discover that shit is, they crisscross a planet in glide as narrow as they can, so that they're as slow as they can, looking for that one little pixel to see if there's something down there to fly down to look for it, to find it. Oh my God, are you kidding
Oh,
me?
boy.
No way I'm going to do that. And I love what Obsidian's
Poor
getting out.
people.
Like,
Oh,
see,
poor people just
exploration.
doing these things. Here's the thing: when when they finally announced those new Guardian runes, not the new Guardian runes, but additional Guardian runes after the 2.2, which was a disaster as a thing, but whatever. People, or rather, Ramta had those not coordinates, but systems listed, and everyone just went out to search for those sites, and I
Yeah.
did too. And I tried flying over on it. Now, to figure out all those mysteries and so on and so forth, it's nice to have a game with mystery and so on and so forth, but unfortunately, if you rely on it to further the story, then no, that's horrible, because no one can, except for really dedicated people, to participate in that, and it's a whole malarkey of just a horrible way of making things. And what was my point? I forgot. Anyways, carrying
Okay.
on swiftly to
Okay,
down to earth.
so yes, I agree with Obsidian that I don't think the game should either give you none or everything. I agree there must be a middle ground, and I really hope that codex is gonna be it. If it's just gonna be a log of stuff you've done, like an achievement system, then I don't think it's gonna add anything to the game.
Who cares?
But if exactly, who cares about an achievement system? But if it's actually gonna be something that's gonna help you discover new things in the game, so you could start to unravel this whole down the rabbit hole kind of thing, where one thing just leads to the next, to the next, to the next, and that's something I feel would add a lot of depth to the game. Now, on the topic of third-party tools, which we talked about earlier, there was someone in my stream chat who mentioned something I've never actually thought about, that the console players, he said he's playing on console. He always have a laptop next to him, so he have access to the third-party tools, because for him the game is next to unplayable without it, because otherwise you're not going to get access to, Inara and EDDB and all that stuff to figure out where to go next to get a specific item.
Yeah, that's that. I honestly,
It shouldn't be like that.
Poor console players. Now, of course, my elitist in me will say join the PC master race, but
Fair
realistically
enough.
speaking,
There
we're
we go.
all gamers, and that's the important thing. And the experience for console folk without any connection to PC, it's. I really, just like with many of the people in forums and whatnot else, I agree. They should be forced to play the game to realize how bad it is on console without all the third-party tools to realize
I can't
what
imagine.
the game needs.
Yep.
Obsidian?
What do you guys think? Someone just mentioned it in my chat, Spidey. He was asking, what do we think of getting a salary in the game? Either from pledging to a power, or perhaps I guess we could get similar
But you
from
got
a
salary
faction.
from Power.
Yeah, after,
$1,000, 1,000 credits every week. Get fucked.
50 million if you're rank 5. Because
Yeah,
that's
but
easy.
the literal
to get to grade 5, the rank 5 in power play is a real pain in the neck, though.
a
You
salary that makes sense. Then let's put it that way.
No.
Should it
I
be
mean,
earned? Should we have to do something for it, or is that just not really something you'd like to see?
something. Yes, but
I don't like the idea of passive income. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, sorry. I was just saying I like the idea in general. I haven't really considered it. And what were you going to say, Thunder? It's about passive.
I don't like the idea of a passive income, quote unquote passive. I mean, it will not
Yeah.
be 100% passive
I
because
would echo him.
they did something in again, I'm going to pull in Eve here, where they have a skill system that's completely passive. So you just decide what skills you want, you put them over in a queue, and you can make the queue as long as you want, and then you go AFK. So potentially you could like make a long queue of skills you wanted. You could go away on holiday for 3 months, come back, and then your character would have progressed 3 months in the game. So you could. That means that newer players had no way they would ever be able to catch up to veteran players. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's good for a game, and that's been one of the major flaws I see. So that's why I don't like the idea of having a quote unquote weekly pay in Elite, because if that becomes the majority of people's income, just maintaining that weekly pay, then you're gonna get to that situation where there's no way that a new player can ever catch up to a veteran player because they already got that weekly income figured out and it's just coming in every
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
But then perhaps that would depend on the amount of money sinks that are in the game. There's not a lot in there at the moment, is there?
No, not really.
There's actually, I don't know if you guys, have you ever played Black Desert online?
Very briefly, not very much.
You can actually get like a daily salary in that. It's based on a bunch of different stats, but basically based on your power level, I guess you could say. But in that game,
Is that
you've
a
got-
free-to-play game?
I think it's very, very cheap now. It came out originally, it was like £30, I think £40 when it came out, but it's something like £7 on Steam now. It's not free to
Oh,
play.
Yeah,
okay.
it's pretty inexpensive. I remember it was super cheap when I bought it. and
It
that was
doesn't
a couple
matter,
months ago.
okay.
It's
It's
actually
just-
got quite a lot of good
okay.
mechanics in it, really, that I think could be quite handy over here. Some of them are passive, but then the game balances it the other way to make them not a super mega overpowered benefit. One of the things it gives you, I think, where I'm at the moment, you get a few 100,000 credits a day as a passive income.
Actually, one of the guys in my chat just says that Black Desert is on sale right now for $3.99.
Yeah, I'd recommend
It
picking
doesn't
it up.
matter. Now, right, so let's... Okay, so the whole idea of an income passive thing or whatnot else, be that first win of the day or a login bonus or just weekly, daily bonus and so on and so forth. This is a tactic, just like this bonus weekend that we have right now. It's a tactic used to bring people back and let them, or at least encourage them to play for longer. And this has been done since World of Warcraft days. And actually, I think they might have been the ones that coined it. Maybe not. I'm not really that particularly familiar of all that stuff. But in any case, that is that cynical take on it, and that's the reason why you see these first kills, first kill bonuses, or weekly bonuses, or even like this, a bonus weekend where you get some bonus, right? And no, I again, when it comes down to a good game, it should reward you as you play it. You know, give you reward for doing things in it, making it enjoyable, and so on and so forth. So you can do whatever you want later on, and so on and so forth. So I'd say that would be the more important thing to focus on. But no, hey, that's just me again. So yeah. Anyways, Exigeous.
Yeah, somebody just posted in my chat, and I'm not an EVE player, but I have a couple friends that are, so I know a decent amount about it. And I'm curious about, specifically Down to Earth, what your thoughts are since you have come from EVE. When we talk about passive income, and this is a little pie that's got big for a league, but what about, I agree that it's a bad idea to have passive income where you just quite literally do nothing. What about the idea in EVE where you can essentially build, I'm going to call it an empire. You could build a mining base. So you can set up something that then, I'll use the word passively, earns you credits from the investment you've made in that, right? So that you've got some machine you built on some planet that's mining away from you. And then, you check in with it every week and go pick up the resources from it. And that you can make income in that kind of way, right? Coming from EVE Down to Earth, where that is a reality, do you think that's something that works well, that potentially would work in Elite or not?
It could, but again, I think the frequency that you need to visit it in EVE is a little bit too low. I mean, in EVE, if you build something, they have this PI thing where you basically build mining colonies on a planet and they'll then harvest resource for you. And you can visit that once a week and you can keep that thing running. And I think once a week is a little bit too low. I mean, it's fair enough that it would be able to keep itself running over a weekend, but I don't think much more than that. But other than that, I think it would be great to see something like this in Elite. I mean, I would love if we could actually begin to use some of the materials we gathered. For instance, if I spent a few hours mining and I got some materials, it would be nice if I have an alternative use for them, rather than just selling it straight to the market and then just cashing in right away. If I could use those and say, oh, I want to take those materials and I want to refine them down to some other materials, or I want to put them into a manufacturing plant and then begin building chemical manipulators or whatever. So you could begin to manufacture some of those materials for yourselves. I think that could be fun, because I could see a lot of players really enjoying micromanaging a production line like that, myself included.
Yeah.
And I don't think it would be a passive income, because you would have to actually put in a decent amount of playtime to keep it running. And yes, sure, it would still work when you were offline, but...
And somebody even posted in my chat right now, again, let's just make this mythical mining base I'm talking about, would other players be able to attack it or rob from it or destroy it? And I say, absolutely there should, right? There should be some sort of risk involved. Well, yeah, absolutely, right. And I'm not a micromanage kind of game player, like The Sims or those kind of things, or even like things like what's the roller coaster game? Planet Coaster. Is that the Frontier roller coaster game? That's not my kind of game, but I can absolutely see how some of those elements brought in. The idea when we get squadron ships, if you could then somehow, I'm going to make up another one, lease dock space, right? Shit, if you want to store more than 120 modules, buy 10 slots of module space from me and my modules for a million credits, or those kind of things I think would be awesome.
So now we are very close to the topic anyway, because now we're talking about player-owned structures here. Fleet carriers. Yeah, here we go. Someone had to mention it. Fleet carriers. They're also going to be player-owned. And I haven't seen, I don't think we haven't had the focus feedback yet, so obviously we don't know. But do you guys think it's going to be players can attack them? Can they maybe disable some of the facilities, like putting it in lockdown or UA bombing or something like that?
All right, we can go just one by one in that case. You pick.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Again, Down to Earth, you started this shit show. You pick who talks. Come on.
Yeah, go Prox.
I can say something. That's all right, yeah.
Great.
Okay, I'll happily give my train of thoughts then. Go ahead.
Go for it.
Because I personally don't think they're going to be directly be able to be attacked directly. Because how would you manage that? If you have a group of players, they would have to be available across the different game modes, like solo, private, open. And how would you then prevent players from just going there in solo and shooting up your mega ship or your fleet carrier, and you would have nothing way to defend yourself? And then suddenly having a fleet carrier becomes more of a burden than an actual benefit to a community, because suddenly you have to spend a lot of time repairing it from all the PvPers who get a joy out of running around. and shooting other people's fleet carriers. So I don't think they're going to be people are going to be able to attack them. But then again, I'm not even sure if other people than the squadron that owns them is going to be able to use them at all, or if they, for other players outside the squadron, it's just going to be a static object they can see in space.
I have a feeling that there's too many limitations for the carrier to be a point of combat, I would have thought. At least in the technical design of the game.
Yeah, if you could attack it.
Yeah. How would you protect it in solo or private group?
Yeah. I don't see there's any way in hell that they're going to set it so that, so that you can even UA bomb another player's carrier, right? Just because, I mean, first of all, I think the quote unquote forum dads would.
They did say that you won't be able to land on it if you're not part of the squadron that created it.
Interesting.
Okay.
I had no
They did say it, yes.
Okay.
So that means no black market shenanigans, no UA bombing, that kind of crap.
Yeah, okay, so that seals that. Honestly, I think that's a mistake, personally, because I think the ability to say, hey, here's our squadron, we're all hanging out here, buddy, come hang out and sit with us. I mean, to me, that seems like a big benefit, right? I'll also say, for me personally, I don't know about you guys, but I try my best not to speculate too much about upcoming features, because I think we all know, unless Frontier has specifically said, this feature is coming and this is how it will work, it probably isn't coming and it probably won't work that way.
Exactly,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. But then we don't know how it's going to work anyway.
Exactly. I think multi-crew SRV is the absolute perfect example. Who would have dreamed that we wouldn't have had multi-crew SRVs day one, and that over a year later, we still wouldn't have multi-crew SRV?
Hey, but
Right.
I also have a part answer to that, but whatever.
No, please. That's
Okay. Right. So first things first. Yeah. Now, okay. So I've said this before, and Obsidian knows this quite well. As I said it, during the previous little thing that we had going on a couple of weeks ago. But anyways, I say kill the hype, and that's why I don't speculate often. Really, I tend to avoid it as much as I possibly can, and all that stuff, and. The point is, theory crafting as a whole thing, basically at this point would be going on with the whole fleet carriers, and when it comes down to it, we talk about what they could be, or what could you be using them, or what would be fun, and you inadvertently just breed a hype. Now, once the thing comes out, and it's a big, sloppy piece of shit.
Which it will be.
Yeah, well then, yeah, essentially, well... Who's getting angry at that point, right? Well, those that get hyped the most. For me, again, I was just happy when they just unceremoniously released that 20 light year route planning. I was astonished how fucking good that was. It was good. I liked it and still do. And for that, I say thank you, Frontier. But yeah, try to kill the hype if you can. Whatever. Moving on. Obsidian? Yes?
Yeah, kind of going back to the idea of a salary again. Spidey brought up a comment. They was talking about player-made factions, and I guess that in the future that could be extended to squadrons and perhaps even carriers. As a way to earn credits, perhaps if there was a salary of some type, could it be tied to the amount of assets that particular squadron or player group owns? In short, should squadrons be able to earn a wage as a squadron rather than as individuals?
That would bring up a very interesting issue of bigger squadrons with more assets being more lucrative to players than the smaller ones.
Bigger squadrons, for example.
Growing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it seems
More
like,
bigger player groups and so on.
yeah, but it seems like they want to try and keep the squadrons small. Like, but they were suggested a 250 member cap.
Perhaps that's a reason
Well, the
why.
bottom. Okay, well, first things first about the multi-crew SRV. The reason why it's not here is mainly to do with the technical issues or the genius idea to make it piggyback on the wing system. Baby, that's a great idea. Anyways, speaking of what was the squadron thing? Right. So the capacity. Right. So when developers had their Q&A about the whole squadron. I did ask and try to get an answer from Adam, who was answering questions, and Will, who was presenting the thing. But in any case, I did ask a question: why did you have that 200? Or everyone actually, the first question that was answered was why did they chose to put up 250 or any number? For me, it doesn't matter if it's 2,000, if it's a 10-player squadrons, or is it a 10 million. It's still it's a cap on squadrons, and I find it bad, and so does everyone else. Now the question is, why was it put in place? The answer, Adam said at that point in their stream, if I remember correctly, the answer was technical issues.
That's bull.
I call bullshit.
Essentially.
I call bullshit,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, the whole game is technical, right? Bullshit. They had to write it. Everything in the game was hard to do. That's horseshit, in my opinion.
Now,
Everything-
see, okay, so here's my little, theory. It's absolutely not right or true or whatnot else unless devs say, but here's my little conspiracy theory about how squadrons are being made. Now, back in the Frontier Expo when, Obsidian was sitting in front of me and I didn't really realize that it was him, but whatever. We looked at the whole screen and I looked at the whole squadron thing and I thought, okay, what is it? And there was no answer. It was just one image, name, and that's it. The fuck it is, no one knows. And really, up until this point, and even now, they release such a vague description of it that, well, you would think that maybe they just started work on it. And they didn't really know what to present and just shoved out the squadron idea just like a week before the whole Frontier Expo. And now they have to deal with the consequences of it. But then again, that's just my conspiracy theory about how things are done. Anyone?
I really don't think they would announce it on a big event like that. Like, that was probably everybody who has anything to do with Elite would have been watching that if they hadn't had at least some degree of certainty that it was something they were going to implement.
But that's the thing. They announced it. They had an idea. Oh, okay, we could make a guild system in the game. Quickly announce it. Okay, fine. Now, when do we start to work on it? We haven't even started. We don't know what people want. We don't know how to do this thing. Okay, fuck it. Let's just push out a questionnaire for people in the forums. Let them make it for us. That's how it felt.
Well, see,
Because
but you're
of lack of
assuming that-
information. For me.
No,
please.
I think you're
That's just
assuming you're listening to people in the forums on that kind of input. And my take is every time they post something like, for example, we haven't even talked about the proposal to make power play open only, which I hugely support, right? But I think a lot of times when they post those requests, it's not so much, hey, what do you guys think? Should we do it this way? It's more, hey, this is how we're going to do it, guys. So you better start getting used to it. Right? I don't know that I can ever think of a time they've asked for input on a feature like that and have not done basically what they said they were going to do in that suggestion or that request.
They did do it with the crime and punishment system. Now, I don't know how well it's
That's
turned out.
because it's such a huge mess, right? I mean,
Oh, crime and punishment. Oh,
Right.
don't even bring that up.
that's
It's so fucking hell.
yeah, that's a steaming pile of dog crap.
Well, here's the question. I'm curious about what you guys think around squadrons that I've thought of a lot and had a lot of questions about, right? Is sharing resources between squadron members, specifically maybe credits, but specifically engineering materials. And I'll preface that by saying I think it's always been fantastic that there's not ways to transfer materials between players, because that would give the ability to build a real world player-based economy, right? Like, if I could go spend $10 with some guy on eBay to buy 50, modified embedded firmwares, people would do that. And I think that would be really bad for the game. The question is, would that be a bad feature of squadrons, right? And maybe some rule around it where you have to be a squadron member for, I'm going to make this up a little bit, for maybe 2 weeks or a month. So you can't just jump into a squadron, trade with somebody and jump out, right? But would that be a good thing for the game in that it would promote, it would promote squadrons, it would promote sharing of resources, or would that be a bad thing because of that ability for an external economy or something?
My quick answer: it's not gonna happen. But anyways, keep on.
I don't think it is either. But the question is, should it or would it be a good thing or a bad thing?
They'd have to be very careful with that, and I'm not even sure what the public opinion of something like that would end up being. Because the general consensus is, if you allow player trading in any form, that's going to invite some form of, quote unquote, gold farmers and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you could go about addressing that in such a way as to allow the feature to be accessible to the masses without putting in, the most ridiculous of restrictions to prevent.
Yeah, that's certainly fair.
Use.
That's what I'm. I mean, the only thing I personally could think of is, like I said, if you had to be a squadron member for like a month or something, kind of like power play, like you earn the power play module once you've been there a month or whatever, some mechanic like that, so that us, the number of times I'm sure you guys have, everybody's done this. If you're, man, I need, God, I can't find modified embedded firmware, and a buddy goes, oh shit, I've got 30 of them and don't need them, right? Would it be good for the game if there was a way to share that without, let's pretend we can wave our wand here and there wouldn't be a player-based economy? Would it be good, or should you not be able to share those kind of things? And I don't know that I know personally. I see both sides. I'm just curious what everybody else thinks.
I think if you kept it within the squadrons and had some kind of cooldown period, or what you want to call it, before you were actually allowed. So like a trial period, and until you passed that trial period, you could not actually engage in trade with other people within the squadron. Then yeah. And maybe if they then even put in some kind of cooldown after you left the squadron, say you can't join another squadron until a week, 2 days, something like that, after you left the squadron.
Just kind of like power play, right? I mean, similar, but to me, even more restricted. And Obsidian, what were you going to chime in with?
Yeah, use Black Desert as an example again. There's limited player trading in that. There is also an auction house on it, but there's set price ranges as to what you can actually list items at. So basically it stops anyone taking control of player trading. On top of that, player to player trading is also limited, so you can't exchange things like credits. So there's kind of options that you could go for. You could allow the trading of certain things, maybe materials, for example. Although now we've got material traders.
And that is a good, and maybe, maybe player to player trading works like material traders even. You give somebody 3 modified embedded firmware, they get 1. I mean, maybe that's a good or a bad idea. But I do agree that there's got to be something to prevent gold farming, because I think that would be horrible for the game, right? But at the same time, I think anything that would encourage kind of more cooperative play, which I think in a lot of ways is sadly a weakness of Elite, or something that certainly could be stronger, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I think trading doesn't necessarily mean you have to open up absolutely everything to be tradable.
Yeah.
There's options there.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah.
But yeah, the only other option, if you really want to keep open a full global trade, that is to have like a contract system where you, just like the material trader, set up a contract saying, I want to buy this for this, right? And then somebody can accept it if they want. But they would always be accessible to everybody in the game when you put up a contract like that, because then it's difficult to do a trade between 2 players directly. But again, then you don't get that opportunity to go and help your buddy who just needs that modified embedded firmware you have, unless you really are really quick about it and set up that contract really quick so you can accept it before someone else goes in and snatch off the market. So I think I like the squadron idea better.
Like the squadron idea better than trading between.
Than a global contract system.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I'm with you.
What about a contract system within the squadron?
That would be interesting. I kind of like that, because that would, that would create some very interesting, inter-squadron play, I think. I kind of like that idea.
I kind of like that idea too, actually.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. I mean,
all I do is just sit here and stab my balls while you theory craft. Well, anyways, that's just me. Anyways, I got to bring the class to the whole thing. Yes. Oh,
quickly,
boy.
I'm going to bitch about Crime and Punishment in that. So right now, while we've been chatting,
Oh, God.
I'm jumping towards Sag A, and when I stopped in one of the Nebula bases, leaving a station, I clipped. I didn't remember doing it, but I clipped a ship, got 100 credit fine. Well, guess what? All the Nebula bases are that same player faction. I can't repair or restock at any base of the Nebula, and there's no contact for me to pay my 100 credit fine.
Oh,
Right,
that's
so
even better. Yeah. The Crime and Punishment, isn't that just wonderful? Not only it inconveniences everyone else and makes the gameplay a lot more frustrating, because again, the less clicks a player has to make in a game for a thing, while they are doing additionally, the better. This is just adding more useless waste of time garbage on top of things.
And the fact that now 13,000 light years from home with a 100 credit fine, I'm significantly impacted, or I can't pay this, right? I can't use, fortunately I brought AFMUs and stuff, but I can't do any of that in any of these Nebula bases I'm landing in over 100 credit fine. That's like, and to finish the rant, the sad thing is, I think we would all agree that, stopping murdering griefing is a good thing, right? Your stance on griefing aside, right? There should be strict, harsh penalties for murder, right? But the side effect here is the new Crime and Punishment. As I understand it from some of my quote unquote friends that grieve, it in no way really stops them. It's not really any kind of deterrent to them whatsoever, because it is so easy to get, back to our main topic, to grind out credits when there's a big gold rush. So it doesn't stop that, yet it winds up penalizing something ridiculous like me, where I'm just some lowly explorer at the moment doing nothing that Crime and Punishment should be effective. Right. And sorry, didn't mean to go on a side topic bitching about Crime and Punishment.
No, just
I
while you're
could
on
do
there,
that easily,
just,
don't worry.
I don't agree with this opinion, but what do you say to the people who say to you or other people in that same situation that you should have been more careful?
There is a little bit of fair to that.
Yeah, I totally don't agree with that opinion, but
well, I think it's a little fair, but give me, like, right now, okay, I have 100 credit fine. Give me some way to deal with that right now where I am. Right, theirs I think is the problem. Right, like if I make a mistake, give me 100 credit fine. I understand that, but now that it locks me out of a rather critical part of gameplay, which is obviously completely unintended, that I would take this kind of penalty for that. That's, I think, where the problem lies. Right,
To put it in a simple term, you essentially have a small little parking fine,
right?
And the starport tells you to get fucked.
Exactly. It'd be like going to a gas station to buy gas, and they go, "Oh, you've got a parking ticket 2 counties over. Fuck you! You can't have any gas here."
Yeah.
Right? Well, at least they changed that.
By this. Because like here, like if I get a parking violation in downtown where I live, I can just take that ticket, like even right that second, take it right to the courthouse that just so happens to be right around the corner, and pay it right then and there.
Right.
Like, why can't we do that? Like, it's a fine. It's not an arrest warrant or a death warrant in this case.
Which should be a bounty thing, right?
Right, which, that would be a bounty. It's a fine. It's like, you're a slightly naughty person. We don't like you.
No, you made a mistake. The thing is, jaywalking and so on and so forth, these are mistakes. Now, when it comes down to Crime and Punishment and so on and so forth, back in the beta, I actually did say and mention this great, simple idea. How about put it as a threshold? Let's say 10,000 credit fine transfers into, I don't know, a more serious fine or crime, or even a wanted 100 credit sort of a result thingamajig. No. Instead, we're just gonna limit your ability to do things and even just annoy you constantly on your normal gameplay by just 100 credit missed bumps or whatever there might be. So players, get fucked!
And just to go back, I wanted to ask Obsidian, what you were saying, Obsidian, is you don't prescribe to you made the mistake, you have to deal with the ramifications. Is that what you were getting at?
No,
basically?
No, I totally agree with that. What I don't agree with is the way it's been set up at the moment.
Yeah, okay.
Although someone in chat did say if that's a fine you've got, you should have been able to pay the fine at the same station.
Yeah. Because it's a fine. It's not a penalty.
It's a bounty,
Yeah.
is it?
I remember when it first came out, Obsidian, one of your first videos about it, and I can't remember exactly, but I remember you saying something negative about it, and I was talking to some friends. I was like, you know what? If Obsidian's bitching about it, you know something's broken with it, right? I mean, right? Because but and I don't mean that in any kind of disrespectful way, but it was again, if base players, because I do a lot of PvP piracy, right? I've done a lot of criminal stuff in the game, right? And so I understand those negative aspects of it, and I know that players, I'm guessing you don't do much of that, right? So when the crime and punishment is affecting people that are 99% of the time completely, law-abiding citizens, yet like right now, I'm fucked out of using station services this entire trip to SAG-A and back. That's absurd, right? Maybe even, why can't I, like if I've got 100 credit fine and there's maybe not an interstellar factor here specifically, well, let me pay it to some magistrate that's at every station, and maybe it's even 10 times the amount. So I have to pay some little penalty because at least I would have an option. Because as it is right now, I'm guessing when I get to Colonia, I can maybe pay something off and get access to everything again. But I'm halfway to SAG-A and then to Colonia, so it's going to be, many light years until I can do that, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
But there's someone I know who, it's probably happened to quite a few people, I've seen it. Again, with the crime and punishment, they got a bounty because their NPC pilot in the fighter ship accidentally shot a cop or a ship that hadn't been scanned. You've got no control over that. What are you going to do?
Yep.
But you're
well, one of the things, like my group plays this thing we call Sidewinder Slaughter, where everybody gets in a bone stock Sidewinder. You go outside the station and you just big death match. Every time you die and you respawn, you get to upgrade one module. Right. So if you suck and you get killed 3 or 4 times really quickly, you get to upgrade 3 or 4 modules. And if you guys have never done it, it's a blast. Get 5 or 6 people minimum together and it's huge fun. Well, we did that right after 3.0 came out. Not thinking about it, we just did it at our main station. I think we were at Jameson. We violated the no fire zone. Of course, I die because we're doing deathmatch. I then respawn in a detention ship 130 light years away.
I love that.
My only choice was to ship my ass over, wait 30 minutes for it to get there, and so I could fly back. So you know what I did? I logged out and went and did something else. So 100 credit ended my night of gameplay.
But Exigeous, you are a criminal.
Oh, of course.
You're a criminal. How could you bitch now? The game simply punished you and told you to get fucked.
I obviously, I know. I'm just a piece of shit.
This is definitely fucking fair. Right?
Terrible person. Absolutely terrible.
I mean
one thing.
What else could we do with him, right, folks?
Actually dissuade griefing. That'd be one thing. But it doesn't in any way, right? Griefers don't care about getting a bounty.
It annoys players, nothing else.
Exactly. It's slightly annoying, and that's about it, right?
Sometimes it's even worse than that. Not only slightly, it's frustrating even. Great addition, all I can say. And that's the bottom level. Imagine how fucked up is the top level, the more difficult stuff to take, the PvP stuff or, whatever else there is, more important stuff. This is just a nitpick. Imagine what's going down deep in the whole cesspool of the crime and punishment. Holy shit.
Well, and if like DtEA.
Yeah, get back to the topic. Yeah, money.
Like,
so today we are about money, not crime and punishment. So that's a good idea. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
so
I'd love to have Down to Earth. We're discussing open versus solo and buff. Down to Earth, you want to?
That's for another time, I think. No?
Think so?
No, I think
actually, it fucking go.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one. We could discuss that for hours. I think.
I apologize for taking us so far off topic. My bad.
No, dude, it's fine. I like to see the forums in flames. So that's one of the topics that incinerates it, or at least starts it in some ways. In any case, right. So money making. Let's see. What could we go for? The bonus weekend we talked about, and there are some things. Huh?
Yeah, we never really got around what Obsidian talked about earlier with what would happen if you, in any form, implemented a passive daily income in the game. Whether that was when you were part of like they have in Power Play with the
They
squadron.
tried it with power play. It failed miserably, mostly because power play is a piece of flaming garbage. But
Right.
even with that, I'd say, at least on my end, of course, the daily thing is for this game. It's definitely not preferable. It's more for pick up and play games. I'd say the whole daily reward or XP boost or whatnot else, that is more suited for pick up and play games, and this one's really not.
I might be completely wrong. I haven't played EVE Online for a long time now, but don't they get a daily wage or something from the guild you're in? I know you get taxed. I know you get taxed. There's
No,
corp-
the
there's
guild
corp tax,
itself,
isn't there?
the guild itself, the corporation, which is basically a guild, they can impose a tax. So whenever a player part of that guild, they do anything that's run missions, trade, whatever they do, there is a tax paid to the corporation they're in. And the corporation can then do with that money as they see fit. Some corporations use it to buy like cheap equipment that everybody have access to, so they can go build their own ships. And some they use it to pay out dividend, and then people can hold shares in the corporation that paid out from time to time. So they do something like it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just wonder if squadrons could perhaps use something like that, but then that's theory crafting, Yamiks? At the moment.
Yes. No, again, it's all fine. You can do whatever you want. Never. I never said that you are not allowed or whatnot else.
No,
All
no,
I
I
say
get your
is,
point.
in my end, kill the hype and perhaps
do agree with
stay
that.
pessimistic in some way. So later, when something really good comes out, the 20 light year route planner, which I'm gonna harp on for fucking ever because I love it.
It is brilliant. It's one of the best
Seriously,
additions ever to the game.
later
There
on.
aren't that many things, but this is one of the
Honestly.
things that surprised me so tremendously.
Okay,
So yeah.
Here's an idea then. How about when you done your grind and you got your rank up with either the Federation or the Empire or both? What if you
Transporting dildos or whatever, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Flying around, transporting USB sticks around or whatever you do. So, what would happen if they, for instance, said, well, depending on your rank, once a week maybe, you're gonna get access to some special mission, kind of like the rank up missions, that would have a higher than usual payout. You could only complete that mission once, or maybe you could choose between a variety of missions, so that something that fitted your game style. But if you had like a mission that, depending on your rank within a certain faction, they would then offer you a special job, saying, "Hey, we really like you. That we found this very lucrative job. Do you want to take it before we offer it to someone else?" And you would then go and apply that. That would be a way to add a not 100% passive income, but you would kind of get it because you would get overpaid for the amount of work you did because of previous work you've already done.
I think that's a great idea. And I think, to me, down to earth, that reminds me of, the missions that we get offered to us just randomly as you're flying around, the comms missions, where I think, sadly, those also could be very interesting. But as we know, since the range in what things pay is so absurd, you get a mission like that and you look at it, it's probably going to take you, I'm going to ballpark here and say, even if it took you 15 or 20 minutes and it's going to pay me 20,000 credits, like, are you kidding me? Right?
Yeah.
There almost should be
gameplay there.
but there should be almost like a minimum wage in a way, right? Like, once you're elite, you're in some game mechanic, you're being offered missions, and somebody actually, I think, touched on this early on. You're being offered missions that are at a base, you're going to make $5 million an hour, and I'm throwing numbers out here, right? But if you're a Sidewinder pilot with 10 hours, you should be getting offered missions that pay dramatically different than the 5 of us who have got thousands of hours and are flying a $1 billion ship. But you don't.
Pessimistically, my answer as to why it's not like that is simple. Balance and they've in unwillingness to actually do anything about it. Simple as that. Again, it's grim view on things, but it's basically just time that developers seem to not be considering worthwhile, and that's why they just simply haven't done it. Or again, I don't know, some random space toe is more important to be made rather than balancing things, or maybe making gameplay a bit more rewarding. That's yours truly's another conspiracy theory.
Yeah, but again, if you did something like that, I mean, if they're already trying to go in the direction of having weekly, now we don't know how often these bonus weekends are going to be, but if it's something that's going to be a weekly, maybe not weekly, but let's say a monthly thing, if they're already going in that direction, sorry?
Yeah, sorry, I just saying quarterly, sorry.
Yeah, quarterly, whatever. But if they're already going in that direction, that they're at some frequency going to have these bonus weekends where they're going to do something to encourage players to get back into the game. Now, if they did it where it was a personal thing that would refresh, and that doesn't have to be weekly, it could be monthly, or it could be quarterly. Quarterly for a personal mission would probably be too long, but...
Yeah, I agree.
But that would still mean that people would still be encouraged to log in at least once per whatever time cycle they have, but they could do it on their own time. They didn't have to be here in a specific time frame. Now, they have given a fairly wide time frame, actually almost a week. I mean, it is from Thursday to Wednesday, something. It's almost a weekend. So it's a very long weekend.
It's long enough.
So that there should be time enough. But if they want to implement it as a more natural part of the game, then that could potentially work.
Right. Anyone else got something? Because I'm gonna go on a rant here again.
Hey, go on.
I'll
Go for it. Go for it.
Yamiks, I can't wait to hear it.
All right. So
Grab popcorn.
I did mention a little thing back a couple of days ago in probably one of my streams or offline or everywhere, whatever the case is. So bonus weekend, right? This one will work. This one is already working. I probably will pick up Steam charts to take a look at the numbers a little bit.
Just opening that now.
Well, yeah. Please do. That would be wonderful. But remember, an average player, peak during the last week or something like that, it was around 6 to 5.5 thousand on Steam. So let's see how it jumped or did not. But in any case, now when it comes down to the whole bonus weekend, this one will work. I can tell you that much, which is nice, which is good. It brings back some people to at least try mining. Maybe not mining. Mining actually works too, because after all, commodity prices have been increased, which means also mining does work with that. In any case, now trading, mining, whatever the thing is, now people are doing it, which is nice, because unlike Exigeous there, I find it actually therapeutic. Now, the thing that I can't stand...
I like mining. I hate trade. I like mining, though.
Oh my God, we're opposites. Holy fuck. How could you like mining? Jesus.
So, okay, hold on. I like mining in VR, because floating in an asteroid ring in
That's
VR...
even worse.
Playing is... That
Okay,
I like.
whatever.
Goggles just to be able to enjoy
That's
mining.
the point that I'm trying to make today, right? So, So, anyways, right. The bonus weekend, this one will work. Okay, let's say devs decide to make another one, and that works as well, since just like with CGs, they work a couple of times. But over time, people will just get bored. Now, of course, in a way, if you can make these bonus weekends more predictable, then I don't know. Maybe it could be a substitute, a weak substitute, but substitute nonetheless for the lack of proper reward balance. And, it would make playing the game a little bit more rewarding during those times. And every other time, you can just go and do whatever you want, which is fine and dandy. That's one strategy you can take. I really don't have anything against it, but eventually, just like with community goals, it will get old and people once more will stop playing, even though you might throw even bigger rewards and bigger rewards, because the gameplay itself at the time didn't really make sense anymore, and or something like that. And that's my issue, at least with these quick grab attempts. Okay, it will work the first time, second time, third time, maybe even fourth time, but eventually people get used to that.
Yep.
So that's the theme. And yes, also, you know, yeah, go. Talk about the whole thingamajig.
I assume that was me.
Yeah. Down to earth. Yeah, go.
You didn't get that
It's
great.
hard to pronounce your name, goddammit. Anyway,
You can just use Astro. That's a lot easier and shorter.
Fine, all right.
Okay. Anyway, point is, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but if you look back, it seems like the money-making rushes when they're slowly creeping upwards in how much money you make. I mean, if we look back half a year, when Quince was the most visited system, that would often be 10,000 players coming past the system every day, that thing was yielding players, around 70 to 80 million per hour, something like that.
Yeah.
Yet today, as Exigeous, you said earlier, I mean, you're not going to get your ass out of the station for anything less than 100.
Right.
But back then, people were losing their minds over 80.
That's right.
And so it's and we've seen methods, as you've been posting yourself, approaching the 300 million per hour.
Yep.
So it just seems like it's creeping, and I don't know if I don't believe it's an intentional thing, and I don't believe it's because that Frontier is becoming worse at like trying to catch these things before they go live. So I can't really figure out why that is that the money making is creeping the way it is. Because I've been struggling to figure out if there's what changed since we're suddenly seeing all these higher and higher money-making gold rushes.
Well, the game itself also gets older, so obviously less and less people will play it eventually, unless, well, you bring out something like Horizons once more back in the day, because it basically launched the game instead, because the real launch of the game was, okay, it's the Steam charts, as you might see. There's that bump, and then there's a bigger bump, and that is when Horizons launched, which was really interesting. But, well, that's, again, quality of the gameplay that you introduce, and end game sort of, end game results, things, or tools to use. Yeah, all that stuff basically comes in, and now people stay longer because, well, there is something to do once you got all the ships and all the things and so on and so forth. So yeah. Anyways, carry on.
Yeah, you know, and I want to address what Down to Earth just said. You know, I get what you're saying about kind of the frequency of the money exploits, but when I think back, you know, going back to really, I'm trying to think like 17 Draconis even, it seems like every major version, you know, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, 3.0, there's always been something in there somewhere that paid more than 200 million, right? I can think of 17 Draconis. I can think of the Rabigo slave drive, you know, the get on, get off my ship slave grind. You know, think of, you know, Rhea passenger mission, the Reset passenger mission. And, you know, for me, I actually think the Rhea, you know, when the Rhea passenger mission started here, you know, whenever that was 3 or 4 months ago.
The good old diarrhea runs.
Yeah,
oh,
right.
Yes, I love them.
One of the worst thing that's ever happened for the game. And what I mean is, I think it really set what was an unrealistic expectation in a lot of players' eyes, because that one was so public, so many people did it, right? That I think so many people then expected that I should be able to make 250 whatever it is million an hour, and you know, everybody screams nerf, 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 which you know they did, but at the same time, I don't look at Rhea and specifically like the recent, you know, passenger redirection thing as a nerf, as more of a fix, right? Because clearly these were not as intended, right? And as I've seen it, and tell me if you guys agree, it's seen that every time we've been able to make something that's in the 100 million per hour or lower range, like current passenger missions, which are post Rhea nerf, Frontier's kind of let those go. Right. So it seems like they've always been okay in that range. And I think Rhea, the two bad things it did was it set that expectation. And then you've got, and we've all seen it, the countless anacondas and even corvettes and cutters at Jameson that are mostly harmless, find an anaconda, and they've got 50 hours of gameplay. Right. And I'm not saying it should take 500 hours of that. Right. But I'm curious if you guys think that was a bad thing too, or if it's just me.
Okay, when it comes down to progression in this game, again, it's weird because first of all, this game is a simulation, and I talked to devs, and they said that, well, you know, a player shouldn't get an Anaconda immediately, which is understandable. But then again, when you talk about such thing as progression, then they fire back at you saying, well, there's not really supposed to be a progression. Well, which one is it?
Exactly. Which one is it?
Yeah, that's the problem. So
Yeah, and Obsidian's trying to jump in with
go.
Yeah,
No,
go for it.
just a very, very quick bit. You're talking about money creep there. And I think it was Exigeous, you mentioned 17 Draconis. How long ago was that now? Was that, what, 2 years?
Year and a half.
Yeah.
It was a long time.
I remember someone making a YouTube video at the time. It may have been Dr. Kai from Distant Worlds.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that he managed to get the billion in a week. And I remember the
That's right.
the
It was
outcry.
Dr. Kai.
Yeah, the people,
Yeah,
people really
I
kicking
remember
off.
that.
But now people are making $1 billion in a day with some of the
Oh,
more recent
in
ones.
4 or 5 hours.
Exactly,
You are. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be a month, or I mean, if you're doing constant gameplay as an advanced player, right? But it certainly shouldn't be. I mean, I think we would all agree. I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody. Tell me if I'm wrong. 300 million an hour is absurd, right? I mean, 100 million an
You're
hour.
always wrong, man.
Well, of course, 100 million an hour for an advanced player, I think, is reasonable.
Yeah.
I think as
Well,
long as
but-
people can cover a ship rebuy cost in an hour, that's not too bad. So 50 to 100
yeah,
million
okay.
an hour, then yeah.
I
My
agree with that
bigger issue is with the whole economy state and the whole idea that, for example, a ship like, oh, I don't know, Imperial Eagle is more than twice expensive than normal Eagle, and yet it poses basically just a couple of upgrades and so on and so forth. The exponential increase in price. I understand this is a game, and yet it doesn't feel like it is properly balanced. And now we have to deal with this shit that is called this game's in-game economy. And that is mostly where I see all the problems stem from when it comes to money stuff.
So you're saying that at some point money becomes meaningless because there's too much of it? Or...
Well, eventually it would, obviously, but more the point I was trying to make is more to the whole progression in the game. For example, you know, Anaconda just costs. Somebody probably will calculate how many sidewinders, and yet how many sidewinders can that amount of sidewinders can easily beat one Anaconda, right? The whole again, it's that money creep, and yet there's a lack of progression for money rewards, and it's just the whole economy, the whole way missions are rewarding players, the whole ship prices, module prices especially, and just everything that blends together. It just doesn't match, and that's where you see these issues come from, at least in my eyes. That's it.
Paroxym.
Anyways, Paroxym then in that case.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay, so we touched on new players and Anacondas very briefly. You know,
Yeah, I
with-
brought that up.
Yeah, okay. That's actually something that we see in the Galactic Academy all the time. For those of you who don't know, there is a Frontier run and backed Discord server called the Galactic Academy. And what they've done is they've gotten a bunch of, you know, who they consider to be knowledgeable people together and put them, you know, in a mentorship role in the server, and people come in, ask questions, what have you. You would not believe the number of people that we see in that server on a regular basis saying, I have 20 or so hours in game, I've just bought my first Anaconda, this thing sucks, what do I do with it? And it's because they have no idea how to outfit it. They don't even know how to fly it. They don't even know the game mechanics behind making the thing work to begin with.
So whose
And
fault is it really?
Generally,
Good question.
Generally, we consider it the player's fault, at least on that server.
Really?
Because-
that's
yes.
wonderful thinking.
I
Yeah,
think-
and the reason for that is because they don't consider what they're doing by skipping everything that is quote unquote considered progression by most people. You know, as far as the league is concerned.
Yeah, I talked about this whole stuff with some devs actually. So yeah, but
Yeah.
I'll let Exigeous go in a bit. it, but give me a sec there. So, right, really, this is a piece of entertainment, as I said, as it is with what we are doing right now, and it is our task to entertain people, and so it is a game's task to entertain people, as well as protect them, teach them, and show them. Don't you think?
Generally
Exigeous, go.
speaking, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Where's your rant? Come on.
So my quick one is back saying about new players in Anaconda. I remember somebody posted a picture I think it was on the subreddit, and the title was something like "Damn those Thargoids" or something. And he was in an Anaconda. I want to say, if I remember right, he was mostly harmless. The picture was him in his Anaconda 1 kilometer away from a station, running out of life support and dying. Right. So, he'd lost his canopy and, he's, oh, damn it. These stupid Thargoids killed me, blah, blah, blah. And I remember thinking, are you fucking kidding me? You've got an Anaconda that you're outfit to go do battle with Thargoids, and you know so little about the game that you didn't realize you could have clicked synthesize life support to save your ship. Right? Something so fundamental, back to what Paroxym is saying, is, the people, these guys are, and again, I'm not saying that there is a right way to play the game and that everybody should enjoy it the way I enjoy it. But I think it is a real shame, a real problem when people are bitching that, oh, damn this, I lost my ship, when it was because of his lack of knowledge, nothing to do with the game, right? To what Paroxym is saying, if he'd have looked in his right panel, life support synthesize, right? And if you've got an Anaconda, you damn well should have 2 tons of nickel and 1 ton of iron. I think that's what you need for life support synth, right?
Just as a
And to me,
counterpoint to that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, and I'm interrupting you there, but does the game ever actually tell you once that you can synthesize life support?
No, but that's I think that's the point I'm making, which is those are the things that if you didn't do some grind, for you play the game, you do 20 hours of grind. I've seen a screenshot of somebody with 18 hours that was elite in trade, right? If you didn't do that kind of thing, get to an Anaconda, skip everything, you would have known that, because by the time you got to an Anaconda, of course you're going to know what synthesis is. And maybe I'm picking something too specific, but I'm just kind of making the point that Paroxym is making, that, a lot of players do skip so much of the game and then bitch about it because of that, right? And I don't know if that's just, that's just my rant. If I'm totally off base, Obsidian, tell me.
No, I think you make a valid point, but I do think the game could do better at explaining things.
Oh,
Absolutely. That's another thing that we complain to Frontier and the Galactic Academy every once in a while. Hey, tutorials,
Yep.
make better tutorials, and like they're definitely better than they were when I first started playing, but they still have a very long ways to go.
Well, they didn't exist until, when did we get the first kind of, was it 2.2 that they added some of those playable tutorials?
Well, when I first started playing was before Horizons, at about a month before Horizons went on pre-order, and there were tutorials then, but they were not exactly helpful. I have no other way to word that. You would learn like the most absolute basic, like this is how you go up or down.
There was the landing tutorial, there was the combat tutorial, and let's see, maybe there was a trade? Was there a trade? No,
Maybe,
I remember.
I'm not even sure
remember. Oh wait, no. There was the landing. There was the combat 1, combat 2, and then bunch of demo, scenarios, essentially masquerading as tutorials. Anyways, continue.
Quick point then. I don't know you guys. I don't know. Can't remember the name of his channel. It's not a regular elite YouTuber, but he does like VR videos, and he did this "Why Dangerous is a Nightmare" kind of video.
Oh God,
Oh.
yes, jump is not.
Up is not jump or something.
Up is not jump.
I believe most of elite have seen that video by now. And he actually hit it right on the nail with the tutorials, where he said, well. Then the tutorial says, now you need to deploy your landing gear. And then he was like, what the fuck? How do I deploy my landing gear? What the hell are landing gear? And then he goes to the wiki page and search up landing gear. I was like, okay, so that's lakes. Yeah, exactly that video. And I think that points it out quite well that the game tells you when you go run through the tutorial. It tells you what you need to know, and it doesn't teach you how it works. It just tells you now you need to figure out how landing gear works, and then basically just like smash your head into the keyboard until the landing gear deploys.
Yeah, no, I quickly posted the link in my channel if you guys want it. If you guys haven't seen it, and if you guys want to share it too, it is absolutely phenomenally done. Right? It's the
wonderful.
It's the best like critical analysis of Elite from a new player perspective I've ever seen.
Yeah, exactly that. The new player perspective is really good.
Bless you. Over sneeze.
Right.
Yes. Got to rant about something.
Yeah, time to rant a little bit. So now, let me pose a question. Does a newbie, fresh out of mama's womb and whatnot else, baby should be given a conda? Anyone?
No.
Yes
Like
or no?
Like just as your starter ship versus a sidewinder?
Yeah. So let's say, is it a bad thing for a new player to get Anaconda or any other of the bigger ships?
I'd say no, Yamiks. I don't think progression should be in the ships. I think progression should be in what you can do in the game world.
Agree with
But that's
that.
just me.
It's one part of how devs try to make the game, yes, but then again they spelled back that a player shouldn't be getting Anaconda right off the gate. That's the thing. Now, when it comes down to it, Anaconda, every ship in this game really pilots the same way as every other ship. It's all standardized. The difference is only really in minute differences as to how they control with the rotational speed, collision boxes, and rebuy. And rebuy is the most important thing here. Now, because of course, player was able to get that Anaconda. Now, of course, if he dies in that Anaconda and has no rebuy, well, he's fucked. Now, that is issue with the fact that the player was able, first of all, to get a ship that costs quite a lot for a rebuy and didn't have the rebuy. The game didn't guide him somewhat through the whole game, letting him pick up, a more safer option and letting him learn in that environment. So really, the bottom line comes down, and I did talk with this with a couple of these things, and they did mention this fact that, okay, a player gets an Anaconda and dies without rebuy, and that's it. He goes bankrupt and never plays again. And that's a real issue. Yes, but that's a problem with the whole economy, that it's not structured to guide players through that relative progression of ship tiers or what hazards. And, well, I guess that's really my point there.
Well, I think the issue is so many
Paroxym, yeah, afterwards. Go. Exigeous, go on, then Paroxym.
Just quickly, as I say, I think so many base progression in the game, and I think in a way, sadly, it's just the nature of it around ships rather than skill and what you can do in the game, right? Like, for the most part, you can do, with the exception of maybe kill a Thargoid, you can do everything in this game, for the most part, fundamentally, in a Sidewinder that you can do in an Anaconda, right? And I have so much more fun flying my Sidewinder than I ever do an Anaconda, right?
Because
and
it moves like a fucking brick, but yeah.
Well, I kind of disagree, and I'm going to let Proxima take this one if he wants. I kind of disagree that all the ships do fly the same. I think there are minute differences,
and really, you can learn the same skill set in Anaconda as well as a Sidewinder, Eagle, Furtherlands, and so on and so forth. There are no different controls, no different real environment, not even visually. So everything is there, and so on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's kind of why I think that activity should be surrounded around the type of ship you've got. They could make missions that you can do only in a smaller ship, maybe because you can only get inside the smaller structures, for example. They've got the CQC assets in the game. Give you a reason to use the smaller ships.
Agreed.
Exactly.
That'd be nice.
See, here's the thing. There's one more topic that I've lifted up from time to time, and that's rock, paper, scissors, sort of a gameplay with ships. Yeah. Small ships should definitely be able to take on a bigger ship because, they are smaller, yet, riskier to take on a bigger one, but still, smaller ships should be more capable of taking down bigger ones because they can get closer and be more maneuverable and whatnot else. Medium ships, then again, should be more susceptible to perhaps bigger ships and so on and so forth. All the shit is trickling down and going around, if you will, if you can actually make it. But unfortunately, this is a simulator, and well, yeah, I understand why they made it like this, but still, it would have been at least an interesting idea. But whatever. Moving on. I think I broke the train of thought there. Sorry.
No, I was just going to comment on the. I was going to give a brief commentary anyway on how like the big ships handle in comparison to the smalls. For the most part, yes, the controls are exactly identical, but it takes a lot more forethought and a very different combat flight style in particular to make those things work properly.
It's due to the lower turning rate. Simple
Lower
as that.
turning
You're
rate.
using this again. At one point, I'd say that's around a Python or something like that. You stop doing the typical just turn, and now you're doing reverse turn. So yeah, that's really where
there's
the
a lot more
gameplay
management going
changes
on.
generally.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very different mindset because instead of treating it like a jet fighter, you have to treat it more like, you almost
Your
have to
mama.
treat it more like yeah, she's fatting around, roll her around a couple of times, we'll be all right.
There's a good one.
Oh boy.
But you do have there's a certain amount of forethought that has to go into the bigger ships versus where the smaller ones. I can fly by the seat of my pants, which is what I do all the time. That's why you don't find me in the big ships very often, because I just don't enjoy them.
Same way, Paroxym.
You see, I'm the complete opposite, because most of the beginning of the game, I didn't worry much for the maneuverable ships. I did trading and mining, and that was often in slow ships, like the type whatever ships and stuff like that. And then only when in the later part of the games I began to actually look into combat. So only when after I actually got access to an Anaconda, combat began to actually interest me. So that's another point. I mean, even though I progressed in a fairly natural way through the game, I think, I would still have been at some point been a mostly harmless Anaconda pilot, even though I might at that point have had hundreds and hundreds of hours in the game already. I haven't just been doing combat. So that means that now
that is fair. Yes.
So now I'm an extremely poor combat pilot in lighter ships. It works a lot easier for me in heavier ships where I can take a hit on the chin and then use the little maneuverability I have to my advantage.
I think for me, I think that's obviously just a preference, right? Like I'm with Prox. Like not only do I hate the big ships, right? I detest them for combat, right? The biggest thing I actually enjoy in combat is a chieftain, right? Truly, my two favorite combat ships are the Sidewinder and the Imperial Eagle, right? Because for me, I like the feeling of flying a fighter versus a ship, and that's I don't think there's a right or wrong here, right? I do think that. Players that do focus, and I should say, Denner, you're exactly right in sense of you might see a mostly harmless Anaconda at Jameson who's elite in exploration because combat's just not his thing, right? So I am kind of generalizing when I say that, right? But we know what I mean by that. It's really actually see a player's triple stats, right? Not just their combat rank, right? But I'm with Paroxym that I think the smaller ships are a little too overlooked, for that level of combat. And to me, to fight in a smaller ship is so much more fun than a bigger one, right? And Obsidian, I know you've got to go soon, but what did you have something to throw in?
A lot of talk there about combat for ships.
Yeah, carry on.
So I'm kind of thinking, ships obviously handled in different ways, yeah. Yamiks, you can argue that it's minutiae differences?
Well, realistically speaking, by the end, once you learn to control ships, my point is,
Yeah, once you can.
or rather, once you learn to control basically the more driftier ships, then you've learned pretty much how to handle every ship.
Okay, so handling
With minute differences, but there you go.
handling aside, would you like to see more variation in ship function? I mean, obviously you're
I don't
talking about
know,
handling, which
that-
is mainly
that-
comes down to combat, but
When it comes down to it, really, there's beauty in simplicity, and there is also a wonderful thing in the standardized stuff. So really, I don't know. That depends really whether or not a developer were to be creating. As long as it's well competently put together, I'll enjoy it, and yeah, I'll try to enjoy it the way initially it is intended to be used, and of course afterwards just crash and burn and make a squeaky noise and whatnot else. But there you go. So yeah, as long as it's done well, I don't care. There's beauty in both simplicity and complexity. Down to earth, you got the floor, I guess.
I would actually love to see ships having specific, maybe not roles, but at least being tailored towards a specific task. I mean, for instance, give the explorer range of ships, give them a bonus to scan time, so they would scan planets quicker.
that's exactly the sort of thing I'm getting
Now
at.
that
That's
one's
what I'm
an
getting at,
interesting
yeah.
idea.
That's exactly the sort of thing I'm
So
getting at.
something like that would actually be really, really cool, because that means, I mean, one thing that I've always missed in Elite when it comes to ships and outfitting is it's all just a bunch of individual modules. It's very, very difficult to make a build where the modules actually support each other, apart from the module that naturally support each other, like shield boosters. And I tried to do something with my Anaconda build where I use the lasers to cool my ship, so I can fire off my shield cell banks. But I would love to see some bonuses applied to the ships that would tailor them towards the specific role. It might be a trade ship that has some kind of bonus that makes them harder to interdict, maybe. And then maybe you will sacrifice some cargo. So if you want to go safe mode.
Think of it. There technically are ships like that in this game already. And
Well,
those are called Oda South Kruger abortions. But even with their luxury cabins, it's a small bonus, but that's, I guess, what we're looking for. A small bonus potentially in that particular role of game.
Specialized ships, yeah.
It should be much. Oh, the fact that up until recently the Type 9 was not the trade king is absurd, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why would a general purpose ship like the Cutter or the Anaconda have more or even close to equal space as the Type 9? And it was great.
Anaconda is basically made when space ferries and magical dust comes together and enters developers' nose.
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
I saw Turgeon hanging out in my chat earlier. He'd say the same thing.
But they could go in the same
That's how I
direction.
feel.
They could go in the same direction as they did with the passenger liners, where they have specific internal modules or internal slots that work for a specific type of module.
I think that's
More
a great,
advanced modules, because right now we have combat ships with those reinforced only slots, but
Military slots.
those can be put still on any other ship, so it's not really much of a bonus, really.
No, but then
It's a
imagine
slight
again,
buff on, but
then going back to the to the exploration ship, then they could make some kind of exploration internal slot that could only fit like a hyper detailed surface scanner that would maybe be able to scan faster or actually detect points of interest on the surface, maybe, as we talked about earlier, was something we wanted to gain. So there's a lot of potential there to make the ships more unique, other than just being a ship with a different rendered model and slightly different handle characteristic.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at with using different ships for different mission types.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, with smaller ships, perhaps around structures, so you can get them inside of it.
And it might even
great idea.
They might even be as specialized as saying, oh, this ship is specialized to lasers, so heat from lasers are reduced by 25%, something like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you can say, oh, this is a laser boat. And that would also make it a little bit more interesting when you're actually out doing combat, because then you actually need to have the not just the like maneuvering skill, but also the player knowledge saying, oh, wait, that's a federal ship. They focus on multi-cannons. I need to be careful because I know my kinetic resistance is low, or something like that.
It'd also give you much more reason to have a fleet of ships. Rather than have a fleet of ships that will do something very similar, you've got a bunch of ships that all have very different functions.
And you would get that rock plate of system thing that Yamiks talked about, where ships would be like tailored to take out other types of ships.
Yeah, like right now you have your, you have your trade ship, your exploration ship, your hull tank combat ship, and your shield tank combat ship. Is there another type? Right? I mean,
basically meat shield.
Well, yeah,
Bubble
but
bus.
yeah, there you go. What you guys are getting at is having much more specialized ships and specialized roles for those ships. I think it's a fantastic idea.
And it wouldn't take much to implement, to be honest.
It would be very easy to do. I completely agree.
But see, that, just like with engineering, it would take that dreaded thing in their development team called balance to
Which is what
properly
we
make.
started, wasn't it?
Yeah, so there you go. Oh well, who knows whether or not that will happen ever, but hey. Oh crap, we actually theory crafted. Holy shit, fuck! Now,
We'll learn into that one, right?
well, whatever. Sometimes it's good, I guess. You can't avoid
Someone write this down and mail Frontier, though.
yeah. But that would be nice. Would be also nice that they would watch streams, but
I was just, I just was
maybe
thinking,
they are. Maybe they
there's
are.
anybody
You never know.
watching right now.
Suddenly, a bunch of trolls just say yes.
Well, of
Yes, of course.
Of course. Oh well. I don't know. You know what? Yeah. Does anyone else have any topics they want to particularly discuss? Because we've been going for exactly 2 hours and 2.5 hours. At least by my calculations here.
Yeah.
Nothing that I can think of right offhand, anyway.
I will
Maybe-
say there was one other thing that I was going to just bring up real quick. I mentioned, and if this is too much of a topic to bring up, we can save it for another time. But, when we talk about like the engineering buff and the trade buff this weekend, one of the things I've always wanted to see is because, those that know me, I do a lot of PvP piracy, right? And I'm not a ganker. I'm not a murderer. I want to steal from people. Right?
Yeah. Keep talking, you filthy murderer, you psychopath.
I need open, right? So I need people to have an incentive to open. And what I've always wanted is kind of like this buff this weekend, and the we talked a little bit about the proposal to bring power play to open only, which again I think is fantastic.
It's a whole different topic. I can always rant on power play. Move on.
I wish there was a bonus for trading in open in a CG, right? Let's say you pick up a material, fly it all the way to the station and deliver it in open the entire time. In my opinion, you should get a 500% bonus, there should be a huge disparity between doing a CG in open versus solo, because really, if you're just a straight up trader and you don't want to deal with the risk of gankers or with nice asshole pirates like me, right? Why would you do a CG in open? There is no incentive to it, right? Because as we started,
there's no pragmatic reason to do it.
Exactly. There's no additional reward for the additional risk you're taking, right? Of the number of players that, like me, I asked for 2 tons of cargo and that's it, because I just want to role play, right? But we all know there's a million commanders, not a million, but there's a lot of commanders out there that will just straight up murder you, right? For no reason, never send a message. And for those players, I know they're sitting there thinking, why the fuck would I do this in open and take that risk when I get no reward? So I'm curious if you guys think that that is something that would be good or would make sense to implement those kind of bonuses as well for open play.
Okay, I'll probably go last in that regard, because I have some interesting stuff to mention.
Right.
But yeah, rest of you go.
Obsidian, what do you? I'll throw it out to Obsidian first.
I think it's really difficult, really, when you're looking at open versus solo, because everyone's playing the game for so many different reasons. I'm fully in support of open only for power play that they've suggested, but when you start getting into the nitty-gritty of other parts of the game, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
Not really sure what to think about that.
I can see why you as a PvPer would want something like that. That would make sense.
Exactly.
It would
but I
make...
want to give an incentive, right, to a non-PvPer to play in open,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause we have none.
I could see it work, but I think that would set the forums ablaze.
What
kind of
does
already has.
these days?
Right? What doesn't? Right?
Yeah.
But that's, I mean,
Point
again, that's
taken.
fair.
I think there would be a lot of negativity around something like that.
But again, let's say that
How many
only
people would
change-
you end up pushing away rather than people that you're attracting to a
Yeah.
certain
But I
play
don't-
style?
Are you pushing everybody away? Let's say you're not gonna nerf solo payouts, but you're gonna buff open payouts, right?
People still gonna feel that's a nerf because they're saying, oh, suddenly playing in open is gonna be more lucrative, and as we talked about earlier, least bit of path of least resistance, right?
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean that's why I'm asking.
I don't know. I don't know if I know if it's a good idea or not, but I could see a lot of negativity around that.
Proxim, what's your thought?
I don't know. I think open only will work for power play, but that's specifically because power play was meant to be a PvP mechanic to begin with, and
Agreed.
I think it kind of goes against the spirit of the thing for it to be, influenceable in solo and private group, where one does not necessarily have to engage in PvP whatsoever. And so I don't think that was in keeping with the spirit of the thing to begin with. Now, if you were to try and extend that to say, BGS stuff or CGs, that kind of thing, that's where I would have to personally draw the line, because CGs, like CGs in particular, it's something that everyone can get involved with and contribute to regardless of how they play the game. Fine. And that's great. BGS, I can see where some people would want that to be, open only, because it is and can be a PvP mechanic, but not everyone in a group that does BGS work wants to necessarily be involved in that, and they just want to play with friends and et cetera, which is mostly how these player groups are. So I can see where BGS might be a little bit more a little bit more friendly to the masses in that regard.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, otherwise, yeah, I just don't think that open only for most game features is going to be a thing outside of power play. At least I hope.
Robert in my stream chat says, or rebuy 50% if ganked.
Okay, I'd be fine with that. Again, some difference for open that makes a trader want to play in open for the reason other than just, hey, there's other commanders flying around that I can see, because most of them might try to kill me, and if they do kill me, there was a reason I did this and took that additional risk, right? Because if I was a straight up trader and didn't care about anything except kind of trading and stuff, why would I do a CG in open?
It's a pragmatic approach, and that's how it is. Simple. Why would you go where it's more difficult for no real reason?
But that's-
Aside from personal satisfaction, it's just.
I at least have a few players over here saying that they would definitely go and play in open if there was a benefit to it. So
I mean, I've had a lot of mine
There
say,
you go, pragmatic approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was a tangible, decent benefit to it, then by all means. But how do you go about doing that though?
well, and that's the question I'm asking, right? Is there a way to give us a tangible benefit? What is there a way to incentivize people to play in open, right? And what would that be, right? I think for the most part, at least myself personally, I wish the game was open only, to be honest. I mean, I think that obviously at this point, there's no chance that would ever happen, right? I mean, somebody was talking about a lawsuit over the open versus solo BGS thing.
Oh God, that's
What?
Somebody said they were going to issue a class action lawsuit because Frontier said early on that the game would be able to be single player only. And now if you can't do BGS tasks in solo, that they're breaking that, so that they should be a class action lawsuit. And I mean, I've heard some dumb shit, but wow.
I think we should just clarify here that
That's already reaching. Wow. Okay.
what they have proposed is only power play, right? It's not BGS.
This was exactly, and that's, excuse me, and that's what I meant, right? When I said BGS. forgive me. I meant power play, right? But yeah, the power play scenario, supposedly somebody is saying that if Frontier does that, he's going to start a class action lawsuit.
Wow.
All I can say is
Good
Yeah.
luck.
Go
No.
for it, buddy.
oh boy. Right. So I guess for me, should your original question was should there be a CG or rather bonus weekend or something like that that would offer a bonus for people playing in open or something like that?
Yeah, I guess just in general.
Okay, so
Open and set.
a simple yes or no answer. Well, I suppose for me that would be sure, but I have bigger problems to rather worry about because right now, even to this day, I still don't really get why there are 3 modes: solo, private, and open. But I did ask this to Frontier or through a person to give me an official statement on why there are 3 gameplay modes. And let me just read the answer here.
This is gonna be good.
It's pretty simple. We wanted to make we wanted to offer a variety of play styles to suit as many players as possible. If you are looking for more of a lone experience, you can jump in. You can jump in with solo play if you want to play with others, but just with people who are close friends, or part of your group. You can join a private group. If you want to get out there in the larger world, meet new players, and have interesting, unexpected encounters, then open play is for you. Now, that was the official statement that I was provided when asked why are there, 3 gameplay modes. Well, for those of you that perhaps know the speak of the bullshit, knows that this is basically the we give players choices answer, and it's really a non-answer. At least it is to me. As to why they exist, the question still stands. We just wanted to give players players choices. Okay, why? Still, the question still stands. Why? It doesn't give that answer. Choices. It's not good enough answer to just make whole segregated gameplay modes. At least not to me. Now, whether or not Frontier wanted to indulge on that answer or not, it's up to them. I try not to ridicule them over that, but I can't sound not sarcastic when reading that or talking about it. So there you have it.
Yeah, personally, I
just want to. I
go-
would prefer open play, just one gameplay mode. Having 3 of them is just weird. But anyways, Obsidian, go.
Yeah, personally, I think the multiple modes were born out of the Kickstarter period of the game. People back in the game, they all wanted different things.
Did they?
People wanted
indeed.
offline, people wanted to play with their friends, people wanted to play a full-on multiplayer experience.
Yep.
And Frontier wanted to please everyone. And I think that's part of the problem that the game still suffers from. Frontier trying to please everyone.
I was just about to say that. Yes.
Yeah.
When you try to please everyone, you wind up pleasing no one, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. And this game is already pretty niche for a niche thing, so probably should have just pushed the niche thing. Maybe. That's, I don't know, maybe.
Oh. Sorry.
Well, anyway, so that, should we call this it? Or anyone's got another topic to poke?
I'm happy
It's,
to leave it
not
there.
Well, I
really-
think we can come up with topics all day, but I'm
Just about money making, I suppose, these
yeah,
days.
no,
I think we can do
it's
this
great.
again now if everyone's up for it.
Oh, I think
Yeah,
yeah.
sure.
absolutely.
I can take, I suppose, another charge and organize this thing if need be. So
I guess we can ask
Now, what-
the viewer. He
Yeah,
enjoyed
exactly.
this.
Ask people what and that is everybody's chat, and the respective streamer will pick it up. What people would actually want to see or hear us talk about in
I
a
think that'd be
future thing like
interesting,
that.
Yeah, just
If
let us
we
know
could-
in the
Yeah.
chat what would you like to see.
I mean, again, there was this
Discuss.
power play topic that we could talk about since DJ wanted to make thingamajig and nothing came of it. I figured, I mean, fuck it. If nothing's happening with it, I might as well organize my own little thing since we are here. But anyways, that's for
To
future.
that end,
So
I just wanted to say a quick thanks to Yamiks for pulling this together, right?
Yeah.
You know, it was really cool of you to suggest this and put all of us together.
yes, pat me on the back, well, please. The great and powerful one needs more
Yes,
of
yes.
that, indeed.
I know you need it, right?
Yes, of course.
Oh my.
Oh my. Well, all right.
But, you know,
Whatever the
last
case is,
thing I was
we're
gonna say, I think an interesting thing to end with whenever we do end, since I did get a few people asking me about this, is maybe just for those that are listening that are kind of new and, you know, don't know some of the stuff that we've been talking about in terms of the mechanics of credits, you know, maybe each of us even go through and talk about maybe one thing where we think is a good way for somebody to make credits, whether you're new commander or experienced commander, whatever it is. I think that might be interesting to hear from each of us what our current, you know, money-making method is.
That's a good idea.
Why don't you start?
there
Dan?
are plenty of topics, I suppose, we can go into. And,
Yeah, but I think if one of each
stuff.
of us
Indeed.
gave one scenario that we do recently or we think is
Oh
the best,
boy.
right? New
Yeah.
player.
I'll go first.
Right.
I'll
Yeah,
have
go
to
for
go
it.
on that. My answer is to go and watch Exigeous, Yamiks or Down to Earth. That's what I often do.
Instead of
And then-
actually playing the game? Oh, well, that's just something.
No, when you want money. If you want money, go watch them.
Well, yeah. We got the monies, yes.
You've got the money, yeah.
Well, fair enough.
I mean, then I'll jump in and answer my own question briefly with the simpler ones. You know, for the new commanders out there, we've talked about this a lot. I think the best progression is, you know, make your first 2 or 3 million in your stock sidewinder, doing bounty hunting, right? You know, go to anything but a Hazres, follow the cops around, pick up their scraps, make your couple million, buy your fuel scoop and your advanced discovery scanner and surface scanner, and then go do road to riches. Right? I think that's a great
For
way.
which you need only 5 million in a fucking hauler. So unless you
it's
really are
pretty cheap.
disgusted like myself with the hauler, don't do it. But if you are just fine with hauler, go for it.
Yeah.
As for me, well, rule number 1 of Elite. Does any of you fuckers know it?
Don't fly
No.
without a.
Yeah, there we go. Don't
Yeah.
fly without the rebuy. That would be the rule number 1 of
Yes.
Elite Dangerous, and that is something that you should always obey, or at least try to.
It
'Cause,
should be common sense, really.
Well,
Sure.
hey, I went bankrupt. Remember?
Oh,
At
that's
one
rough.
point.
I've
Yeah.
never had to do it. I've had a couple
So-
people in some of my videos comment like, "Hey, you know, I finally got to my cutter, bought it, and then lost it 15 minutes later because I was drunk. What do I do?" And I commend them for not crying about it, but man, don't be that guy. You do not
Oh,
want
well.
to be that.
Yeah, you don't want to be that guy. Not at all.
And the rest of you?
Down to earth, like for an advanced player down to earth, what are you doing right now?
For money right now, I would probably keep an eye on Maya, and as soon as we have a few factions in Boom, head down there with a transport ship, and then just move meta alloys around.
Oh, I have a very specific question.
If you pray hard enough to RNGesus and suck
Yes,
his dick
exactly.
hard enough, there you go. You're
It
gonna
is
get those
unfortunately
missions.
very
yeah.
RNG, but
You got to
it-
give him a Hummer.
Well,
Yep.
here's my very specific question to Down to Earth. With those missions, if you take a mission and get meta alloys, abandon it, and essentially steal the meta alloys, is
Yeah.
there any way to take those, abandon them to another commander and get them back, or a way to clean them to use them to unlock engineering material, or unlock the technology brokers? Right? Like if
No,
you-
no,
Yeah,
no, no,
I
no.
get-
I actually
no.
read the whole thing.
No.
It's
there's not a way to do it.
clean goods only.
Yeah, there's
Above
not
the
a,
engineer for a tech broker thing.
yeah, but there's not,
I think even see, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that even if you jettison them and you pick them up, they would still count as stolen cargo.
They are illicit pickups. So
player
what
picked
you
them
has
up
it?
and they dropped them back. Like we can't think of any creative way to clean them in that way.
Nope.
I flew
I don't
down to
think so,
mine
no.
trying to get some missions to try to figure that out, and I couldn't. RNG didn't give me any missions, so I couldn't do it. So I was curious if you guys had figured out a slick way around that. I figured there wasn't, but just thought I'd
Okay,
ask.
so-
There's always an easier way. Just go to Wiki. Yes, go to outside the game. Find where those barnacle sites are and just
Well,
get
sure,
them from
sure.
there. I
But
mean,
that's a problem with that Exigeous, and that is the moment you abandon the mission, you get a fine, and that fine is going to be more than the value of the cargo you abandoned from the mission. That's the way they nerfed the original get in.
Oh,
get,
right,
get
right.
off
But
my
what
ship.
Yeah, they did that to nerf the ship tours.
Yeah, the slaves.
The ego slave. Exactly. Right.
Yeah. So,
And that I get. I was just trying to
have-
figure out a way to steal them for the engineering or the technology brokers. That's all I was looking for. Right.
yeah.
no, I don't
Not
think
money.
there is.
I didn't think so either, but I figured if anybody knew, it was this group. Right.
Yeah, definitely. We are the pool of knowledge.
And Proxim, what are you doing to make money these days?
I don't really focus on making money hardly ever.
Okay.
I mean, which is kind of amusing considering that I literally just in the last 10 minutes bought and built a trade cutter.
Okay.
So
Oh, is that-
Never see it say.
I bet I've got you guys beat here. Who's got the highest spent on rebuys?
Oh, God, okay,
I did a lot of
give me a
sex.
Fuck.
I
I
do stupid
exploded
things all
plenty.
the time.
I'm at
I do
Right.
stupid things all the
1.4
time. Let's see.
Remember,
What?
I went bankrupt, so I already lost this one. But anyways, let's see
Yeah,
what
let's
we
see.
got.
Total
what
claims
is that on the-
cost 367 million.
Okay.
Wait,
I'm at
Well,
one.
I didn't know you went bankrupt. Yamiks.
Let's see.
In my alt now, so I can't show everybody on stream.
Where's the fucking rebuy?
It's under right at the top. It's under your finances.
Oh, right,
It's on,
right.
it's on
I am
the last
blind.
line.
Yay! Right,
Yeah.
so finances. Let's see. Claims. 1 billion.
1 billion.
Oh, 1 billion.
Wow.
Jesus Christ!
How
What
about a
have you
tenth of that,
done?
Yamiks? 123 million.
I said I exploded
Obsidian.
my fucking bank tank, mate.
Obsidian, what did you
Good
say?
God!
123 million. So a tenth
Okay.
of Yamiks,
Down to
basically.
earth. Where are you?
As the total claims, is that the one we're looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah, count the amount.
415.
All right, I'm at 1.4, so I figured I had you guys beat.
Okay, but you're a PvP, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, right. Like, I mean, the funny thing is, I remember seeing somebody say, well, God, if I've already got 1 billion credits, why do I ever need any more credits? And everybody was like, well, to cover your rebuys. It's like, well, I never die. It was like, well, then go die. Have
Oh,
some.
for fuck's sake!
Right, I
so-
just always into that,
Next-
Maybe
right?
maybe
How-
the guy is the god or something
God,
of
this thing handles,
PvPs and things.
Ass.
What's your total number of insurance claims then? Like
I'm
how
going
many
to say
times?
around
Thing
800.
handles like ass. I forgot how bad it is.
377.
Okay, what's yours down to earth?
Just about 165, I think. Now I'm jumping right now, so I can't see it.
Okay, I'm at like 850, 800, something like that.
Yeah, but most of it is side righteous in quits.
A lot of it is is small ships. Yeah, absolutely.
Of course it is. Yeah.
You hush it, Trip. You saw nothing.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to head off, you lot. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna
Yep.
hang
Well,
around
okay.
on
So
my
for
stream
the
a few
end
more
of
minutes
this whole stream, at least for the together thing, because at least I will be probably streaming for a couple of minutes afterwards to say thanks to a couple of folks
Yep,
and
me
whatnot
too.
else.
Yep.
Sorry for bumping Mike. Anyways, but yeah, all that wonderful stuff. And anyway, so first of all, big thanks to. Let's start with the smallest guys, as previously said.
Me.
So Paroxym on the YouTube. Thank you for joining in. The same to Commander Exigeous, who's up and coming and gearing up to be one of the bigger ones here. So give him some love, as well as Paroxym, as I said, and Down to Earth Astronomy, of course, as well. I mean, we've made actually. Exigeous and Obsidian are here, right? The only two that I haven't done any sort of collab with, so in time. But anyways, so yeah, thanks to Down to Earth Astronomy for joining in, and the same to Obsidian Ant for gracing us with his magnificent glow
been
and
a
all
pleasure
that
being here.
wonderful jazz.
Hmm.
So there you go,
I
got it,
said
fellas.
I'll also
All
say
of us
thanks
are
who's thanking everybody else. But again, Yamiks, thanks for you. You're the one that pulled this together. Certainly invited me anyway, and did this. So big thanks to you for doing that. It's been fantastic.
Certainly has. It's been wonderful Friday, in fact. So yeah, there you go, fellas. Hopefully everyone's having a wonderful evening and all that wonderful stuff. So, well, we'll see whether or not we can do this next weekend or week, days, or something like that. So we'll see. After that, I'm going to LaveCon, so I don't know if I can, but whatever the case is, fuck it.
Figure it out.
We'll see. So I'll see you, everyone else.
Yeah,
from
I'm going to hang around and
chats,
talk to the guys on my stream for a bit, and I'll catch you all.
And the same for me.
Another time.
So,
all right then.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thanks for joining.
See ya.
See you around.
Bye bye.
Good night, everybody.
So that's that then. Everyone's gone and it's back to just us. Just want to thank everyone for hanging around and watching. It's been a real pleasure. Really enjoyable stream. Nice chat. Nice seeing you all here in chat as well. And I really want to thank all the wonderful donations and tips that have been dropped in here. So thank you to everyone who gave some money, no matter how much it was. And a really extra special thank you to Commander Corvus. That was a really massive surprise. Left me kind of speechless there for a moment. So thank you. Really do appreciate that. So if we do another one, do you all want the same sort of guests, or would you like us to mix it up a bit and try and find some different people, or how would you like to go? See what you say in chat. That's how it goes sometimes, Sosis. They're all wonderful guys, but yeah. Oh, well, Dallas, nice to see you here. Thank you. Has there been any good explanations of exactly how the trading bonuses work? No, unfortunately not, Trey. I was going to look into it myself today. I wanted to put that out as a video, but I ran out of time. I also wanted it in my video yesterday I did on the bonus weekend, but I wasted a lot of time tracking down various materials. That ended up being the wrong sort of stuff, just down to a bit of miscommunication or crossed wires with Frontier there, but that's just how it goes sometimes, I guess. Let's just roll back up to the chat there. Some other guests would be great, but not opposed to any others. Okay, yeah, Vindicator would always be fun to have on. It's a little bit difficult to get Vindicator on at this time of the evening in UK time, because obviously he's in Australia, so it's a lot later there for him. It can be a bit difficult, but totally up for asking him. He's going to be on Vindicator, and myself, we're both going to be on Live Radio on the 29th of May, by the way, which is this Tuesday. I'll give it a mention in my news video just to let everyone else know, but to give you all a heads up, it's their 200th episode or thereabouts, and they've got a 3-part episode or 3-part series of episodes coming up, where on the first one they're talking to a bunch of YouTubers, so I'll be there with Vindicator and a bunch of others along with the Live Radio guys, so you may want to see that. Yep, it's nice. The Power Giro, sometimes doing something a little less scripted, don't often get the chance to do it. I'd like to stream a lot more often, but it's very difficult to try and fit it in with the rest of the stuff going on in my life, but we'll see. I'll try and get some more streams in if I can. It would mean rearranging a few things. Let me know perhaps if there was one less video a week I could fit a stream in. Let me know how you feel about that. Ascorbius, yep, happy to have him along. And Commander Plater, yeah, okay then. Well, definitely more streams, and we'll see about inviting everyone else along. I'm going to head off now. This stream has gone on for a fair old while, and look at that, I'm running out of fuel. So we're going to end it just before I refuel. I've got plenty of synthesis there, I think, so we'll probably be alright. But, real pleasure. So, thank you everyone. I'm heading off. Yeah, Cornelius. Shame that we haven't seen him anymore. I really miss that guy. So yeah, I'll catch you all around at another time. Thank you all very much for stopping by. It's been great. I'll see you all soon.